Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football team fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here in the Washington Football Report. So, this is a unique situation that Washington finds themselves in. We've been here before, but the spillage is real now. And not to say that the spillage hasn't been real before. And we've talked about spillage in the past. And for those of you not privy to what spillage is, it's simply a runoff, a run over, if you will. Okay? The top 10 of the draft is going to be filled with players that may not necessarily belong there, or it may be over inflated by the number of quarterbacks. And in this unique season, where there's a tight end that has top 5 talent, and there's a linebacker that has top 10 talent, which we cannot say in most years' drafts, you could almost account for 7 of the top 10 players in the top 10 of this draft. That's going to push guys that probably in a normal year's draft out of the top 10. And that spillage, that overflow, if you will, okay, which I call spillage, that overflow is going to then be pushed back, and a team like Washington that has no business getting their hands on a top 12 talent may be on the board with options to select one, to maybe move back, pick up draft capital, and still get something worth having. Or, as the conversation I had earlier today on Twitter with a couple of Washington fans and viewers of this program, we may be able to go up and get a quarterback. So, since the last time we've spoken, a lot has transpired. Not necessarily with the football team, but things happening around that indirectly impact the football team. So, unless you've been hiding under a rock or in a coma for about a week, there have been 2 major trades in the 2021 NFL Draft. We don't see these types of trades take place generally before draft day. Normally, these types of trades happen. It's not unique that these trades happened. It's when they happened. They happened on March the 26th. Trades of that magnitude don't happen regarding the draft a month away from the draft, generally speaking. Now, we've seen teams trade up to number 1. We've seen teams trade up to number 2. Hell, we've seen the Jets trade up to number 3 to get Sam Darnold before. This isn't abnormal from the standpoint of we've never seen this before. It's abnormal because we don't actually know what is being done here and the ramifications of what's being done. We knew in that draft in 2018 that featured Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and Josh Rosen and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, we knew that there was a chance that 4 quarterbacks could go in the top 10. And ultimately, 4 did go in the top 10. Mayfield 1, if I'm not mistaken, Darnold 3, Bills traded up to 7 to get Josh Allen, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Cardinals traded up to 10 to get Josh Rosen. But they were spread out. Never have I seen, I can't speak for any of you out there, and I don't know what history says. I got to get my crack staff on that. Never seen 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks and 5 go in the top 10. That's what we're potentially staring at after the 49ers decided to trade up to number 3. Okay? We don't know what they're going to do with number 3. We can only speculate. I have my thoughts. I have my speculations. We'll see what they ultimately decide to do. All signs point to them coming up to get Mac Jones. I think that is insane if that is in fact what they've done. But who am I to tell them what the right move is for their franchise? Okay? So, in any event, we are now in a position where even if the 49ers aren't up for Mac Jones, but instead they're up for, let's just say, Trey Lance, who I have projected them to go up and get. That may not make it 5 quarterbacks in the top 10, because the only way I see it being 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 is if the 49ers came all the way up to 3 to get Mac Jones. That's how I would see 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. But even if the 49ers came up and got Trey Lance, and let's say the Atlanta Falcons said, oh, okay, cool, we wanted Lance. You know what? We'll just take Kyle Pitts at 4. And now at 5, the Cincinnati Bengals are saying, oh, all that quarterback stuff is cool. We got ours last year. We're going to go ahead and get us Jamar Chase to pair up with Joe Burrow and give him the number 1 wide receiver he needs to make this offense complete. And then at 6, the Dolphins, which is a part of these blockbuster deals that I was just referencing, they traded out of 3 with the 49ers back to 12, then took 12, packaged it up with a bunch of other picks, came back up to 6. Eagles moved to 12. So that's another discussion for another day. However, the Dolphins sit at 6. More likely than not, they came up, I thought initially for either a wide receiver or for a linebacker, i.e. Micah Parsons. It's starting to look like they came up for an offensive tackle. Okay, whatever the case may be, that may be 6. And now the 7 spot becomes a hot spot, if that is in fact the case. Because if you're thinking like I'm thinking, the 49ers traded up. First of all, the 49ers, don't believe everything you hear. You know what time of the year it is. Believe half of what you see. None of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. You know what time it is. It's lion season. Smoke screens are everywhere. Gunsmoke, gunsmoke. I mean, the smoke is so thick you could cut it with a knife. Don't believe anything you hear these days, all right? Half of what you see. Bill Belichick was shaking his head in disgust if you were watching the TV screen 2 days ago when Mac Jones had an overthrow at his pro day. Don't believe that shit. Believe half of what you see. He wasn't shaking his head at that. Shaking his head at something that Josh McDaniels said. Half of what you see, none of what you hear. Even if it's spat by me. And I try not to lead you astray, but it happens. Your man, Louie T. So, let's just go through the list quickly. We know that the Jags aren't coming off of 1. Couldn't pay them to come off of 1. We know the Jets aren't coming off of 2. Couldn't pay them to come off of 2. And trust me, the 49ers called. Don't listen to what you're hearing. There may not have been conversations between the 49ers and Jets. You know why? Because it was quick. 49ers to Jets. Hey, Jets, are you interested? No. Okay, cool. Thanks. It was no conversation because there was nothing there to be said. The Jets aren't interested in moving off of number 2. They got a chance to get the quarterback of the future. They're not moving off of that spot. The 49ers didn't come up to 3 to then give the pick away. They came up specifically for an item. They're going to get that item, whatever it may be. So, you know, the first 3 picks aren't tradable. The 4th pick, as some of you out there have laid out, may be up for sale. I surmise that it's not, but we're going to talk about that tonight. But the 4th pick may be up for auction, may not be. We'll see. But the 4th pick has value. It may be traded. They may take a pick. We'll see. They may make a selection. Sounds like the Falcons are hell-bent on making a selection. And if you want them out of 4, you're going to have to make them an offer that they cannot refuse. 5, Cincinnati doesn't sound like they're interested. Remember, the 49ers reportedly called Cincinnati and the Bengals turned them down. Okay? There might have been a discussion there to be had. But Cincinnati's like, nah, that deal's okay. Trust me, I really like the deal you're offering me right now, but kind of want to get this receiver to go with my young quarterback. So, we did this in the past before when we had AJ Green and Andy Dalton, put them together pretty early in their careers, made beautiful music together. Kind of want to do that thing again. So, I'm going to have to pass this time. But look, in the future, if you got something like this, call me. I might be able to do something for you. So, Cincinnati's like, nah, I'm going to hold on to number 5. 6. The Dolphins didn't come back to 6 after trading out of 3 and going to 12 to get back up to 6 to come out of there. They're not going anywhere. So that leaves you at 7. And that's where I think the Detroit Lions are sitting. And I don't know if they won out or not, but if they do, I think that could be a hot spot in front of Carolina, especially. Now, this to me is only if Trey Lance goes, or Justin Fields, it doesn't matter, goes number 3 to San Francisco, and the Falcons then don't take a quarterback, but take Kyle Pitts or something like that. Anything but quarterback goes at 4. Because we know what 5 and 6 are, or we think we know, at least. They're not quarterbacks. We can assure you of that. Okay? Cincinnati's not taking a quarterback, just took one last year. And the Dolphins aren't taking a quarterback. They just took one last year as well. So we know 5 and 6 aren't quarterbacks. We know 1, 2, and 3 are quarterbacks. 4 is the wild card because we don't know. We think, okay, I shouldn't say we. I think it's a quarterback. I don't know this for sure. I think it's a quarterback. If it's not, that makes 7 that much more important because we know Carolina wants a quarterback. That could be a spot Washington could trade up to get a guy, i.e. Justin Fields. That's the name that's been boundied about with this organization and them feeling really good about. And that could be the spot that they could have to go to get Justin Fields, potentially. I said all of this to say that in one scenario, we could see 5 quarterbacks go in the top 5 because trust and believe, if Mac Jones goes 3rd, Trey Lance and Justin Fields are still going in the top 10. They're not falling out of the top 10 because a new quarterback was inserted into the top 10. If Mac Jones doesn't go 3rd, I don't think he penetrates the top 10, but I think he still goes top 15, top 12, which I still didn't account for when this whole process started. Either way, whether it's 5 quarterbacks in the top 10 or 4 with Mac Jones looming just outside of it, still 5 quarterbacks, you've got to assume at least 2 tackles are going to come off the board, Penei Sewell, and you've got to assume Rashawn Slater is going to come off the board in some form or capacity. Those 2 guys are going to come off the board well before Washington selects. You've got to assume at least 1 corner, Patrick Surtain II. Maybe Caleb Farley doesn't fall far at all, and he's available, and someone snatches him up well before 19. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. We'll talk about that later on tonight. But you've got to assume at least 1 corner is going to be taken. You've got to assume a tight end is going to be taken in Kyle Pitts. You've got to assume that a linebacker in Micah Parsons, if not multiple linebackers, depending on who you talk to, is going to be taken because Jamin Davis is making a hard charge. JOK has been looming around picks 12 through like 17, 18 for the longest time. So you've got to assume at least 2 linebackers are going to come off the board, if not 3. And then you also have to throw into the mix that I didn't even mention, at least 2, possibly 3, probably more likely 3 receivers will be gone before Washington selects. So there will be an abundance of spillage. And I didn't mention the defensive ends. There are teams like the Giants that, Giants could use a number of things. Nothing trumps defensive end, okay? So Ryan Anderson isn't going to fix their defensive end woes. That's for damn sure. So you got to factor in 1 or 2, edge rushers. I said all of that to say, by the time we get to 19, there are going to be options for Washington. Options that may not have existed just a week ago before the trade from the San Francisco 49ers up to 3. And before the Dolphins decided they were coming up to number 6 and swapping out with Philadelphia, who's still in the top 12. So whatever they were going to do at 6, they can now do at 12. It might not be the same exact player, but it might be the same position. So I've said this right now. I expect spillage. I am fascinated by the dynamic Washington finds themselves in at 19. They could trade up, as someone alluded to earlier, whether that's 4 to Atlanta or 7 at Detroit. Go get a quarterback. As much as you guys like Pitts and Parsons and all, I don't see them trading up for anybody but a quarterback. Sorry if I'm bursting your bubble. And I hate to be a dream killer. That's not who I am. So if you want to dream a great dream, go right ahead. I don't think they're going to trade up to take anything but a quarterback if they do decide to trade up, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the two most realistic outcomes for 19 for Washington are stand pat, embrace the spillage, make a selection, or option 2, move back, let somebody else embrace this spillage, and you reap the benefits of the spillage by picking up draft capital and then taking a player while adding additional capital. We'll see what happens. I think this is a very intriguing spot Washington finds themselves in. And they're going to be a ton of talented football players that, as I've said many a times, and I'll probably say it countless more times before this whole process finds its conclusion, that they have no business having the ability to draft or mull over the prospects of drafting. Caleb Farley a month ago was a guy that was way out of our league. We were more likely to get our hands on Patrick Surtain II than a Caleb Farley a month ago. Caleb Farley, best corner in the draft, wasn't going to fall outside of the top 10 more likely than not. And you fast forward a month, he's had surgery on his back, even though it was minimally invasive and it's supposed to be, it was an in and out procedure, outpatient. He didn't even stay in the hospital, yada, 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 yada. Nobody gives a shit. It's surgery on a disc in his back. That's what people care about. All of this in a situation after a season in which he hasn't played a single game. The man has not played in a football game in over a year, and he's having back surgery to relieve pressure on a disc in his back. It scares people. It scares the hell out of me. I can't speak for anybody. It scares me. He might be available at 19. Maybe Washington's not afraid. Maybe they say, hey, our doctors have checked him out. Guy's going to be fine. I looked at his resume. He has no business being here at 19. He should have been gone 10 picks ago. I'll stop the slide right now. Could happen. Who knows? Anyway, let's take some super chats real quick, and then we'll get back to the shits. Got a super chat from Donald Gray. Thank you for the super chat, Donald Gray. Greatly appreciate you, my man. Donald writes, oh, I love this, Donald. Thank you so much for super chatting. Just to remind everybody, hit the like button. And since Donald took the time out to make sure to remind everybody to hit the like button, I'm going to do the same right now by asking everyone out there on behalf of Donald Gray, my guy Donald, to subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on your notification bell. I heard they're not working these days, which is why I took to Twitter and I took to YouTube to remind all of you that I was going live tonight. And for some of you, you're like, hey, it's Wednesday, not Thursday. I didn't know you were going live. I didn't know I was going live. My schedule has been all jacked up this week. And I'll talk about that on the podcast on Friday. Anyway, here we are. Notification bell's not working. I'm going to try to have your back from now on. Anyway, but most importantly, as Donald said, like the video. Hit the like button. All right? Support the LouieTeeNetwork. Show your love. Hit the like button. If nothing else, if you don't super chat, that's fine. Participate in the chat. Talk to everybody else, and hit the like button. That's how you show support. I really do appreciate that. So, Donald, I just want you to know your contribution. You've already gotten the video up over 100 likes. Thank you, Donald. I really do appreciate you. And thank all of you for obliging Donald and hitting the like button. Creative Mind State Game Dev. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. David Sanchez. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man David Sanchez writes, let's get Jeremiah at 19 and Alex Leatherwood at 51. Those are two interesting picks. Leatherwood would be an offensive lineman from Alabama, so you would be looking to fortify the tackle position. Meanwhile, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a linebacker, a weak side linebacker to be more specific, that could be available at 19. He's a part of the spillage. I think that a month ago, I don't think he was going to be around at 19. Don't think so. I think over the last month, we've seen developments. Hell, over the last 3 days, we've seen some developments, i.e. Jamin Davis blowing up his pro day, and he was coming on strong like gangbusters anyway, but he blew up his pro day. He's 6'3". He's 234. I broke him down already. I did not think he would be a first-round pick. Hell, I think I had him as a 5th-round pick. I might have had him in the 5th or the 4th round, maybe the 3rd round. I think I had more so day 3. Slight of frame, he was 224 listed at Kentucky. He looked like he was about 220, soaking wet, and he had some issues inside at times. Well, he bulked up to 234. I already knew the athleticism was there. I talked to you guys about the Tennessee game. That's the one I would tell you to turn on if you haven't watched him and you want to kind of see what Jamin Davis is all about. Turn on the Tennessee game from 2020 this past year and watch him work. He had an 85-yard interception return for a touchdown. He was all over the football field, made a bunch of tackles. Watch that Tennessee game if you want to get an idea of what Jamin Davis is all about. Apparently, the rest of the league has woken up to the idea of Jamin Davis being the next, I don't know, Darius Leonard. Never, ever trust a man with 2 first names. Maybe that's how they're feeling, but I can tell you this. He's 6'3", he's 234, he ran a 4.41. He has a 42-inch vertical and jumped 11 feet in the broad. The guy is a freak. He sounds like he's moving up draft boards. Hold on. Sound like he just moved up 5 more picks. So I'm looking at JOK and I'm saying, you look like you might be on the board at 19. He could not be. He could still go. I've said this a million times. I'll say it a million more. 64 guys aren't going in the first round. Only 32 are going in the first round. 36 guys aren't going in the 18 picks before Washington. Only 18, not 36. So, not everybody's going to be selected before Washington, especially when, as I've already laid out for you, 5 quarterbacks are slated to go within the first 15 picks. Okay? 5 quarterbacks are slated to go. A tight end. We didn't even have a first-round tight end last season in the draft. We got a top 5 potential tight end in this draft. Linebacker was an afterthought last draft. Okay? We didn't get a linebacker taken until the 20s, I believe, last year. I think the Chargers took the Oklahoma linebacker, and then the Ravens took a linebacker, and then the Seahawks took a linebacker. But that wasn't until the 20s. We're talking about a top 10 linebacker and potentially a top 15, another top 15 linebacker, and maybe another one falling to Washington at 19. I don't know. We'll see. So, JOK, I think, is one of those guys that might be a part of the spillage. So he looks more and more ripe for the picking at 19 than he once did. And so I once poo-pooed the idea of Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa being available at 19. I no longer feel that way. Things have changed drastically. Thank you for the super chat, David Sanchez. Got another super chat here from Creative Mind State Game Dev. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Creative Mind State Game Dev. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, "Hey Lou, still trying to understand how super chat works. I think you got it now. I did see the other one that you struggled with, but you got it. I think you got it now." Says, "But if Parsons is available between 12 and 15, is it a bad idea to trade up only to give up a third?" He said, "If we can get Darnold for a second round pick." So, if Parsons is available 12 through 15, which is very possible, highly unlikely, but it's possible. I don't rule anything out these days. Moving up, I think you'd have to give up more than just the third if you're closer to 12. If you're closer to 15, then maybe just the third round pick and maybe a swapping if you've got an earlier pick late in the draft. Maybe you traded with somebody and you got an extra 7, but Washington has a 7 that's 10 picks higher than your last 7 and you want that 7. I mean, maybe something like that could happen. But it wouldn't be a bad idea to trade up. Again, with Micah Parsons, I don't know how big of a deal people are making about the off the field issues or allegations, I should call them. If he's thoroughly vetted, you feel good about him, you don't think this is an issue, then you can move forward. Right now, from what I've seen with free agency last year and then free agency this year and the draft last year, I don't see Rivera taking guys with any character issues whatsoever. Find me one guy that Ron Rivera overlooked some mishap off the field and said, "Hey, this is a good kid. We talked to him. We like him." I can't vouch for one yet. You go back to last year's free agency crop. You go back to last year's draft. You go to this year's free agency group. I haven't seen one guy that Ron Rivera has brought on board that hasn't been an upstanding member of society and a good guy on and off the field. And if you're changing the culture, which we've talked about for 2 years now, going on 2 years, if you're going to change the culture, I don't know if bringing a guy like that on board is what Ron Rivera is looking to do. So, I don't know if Parsons is a guy they would go up for. That's just something to think about. Again, I'm no dream killer. Dream. I'm not here to tell you what to do, man. But all I'm trying to tell you is watch out for your dreams. They could turn into nightmares real quick. All right? So, it's not a bad idea in theory. If he's in that 12 to 15 ballpark, not a bad idea to trade up at all for Parsons. One, I don't think he's going to be there in that range. Don't think he makes it out of the top 10 personally. And two, I just don't see Washington coming up for a guy with any kind of character issues off the field or potential character issues. I can't confirm nor deny any of them. Okay, but where there's smoke, there's fire. So there is that. They're not trading for Darnold. They're not going out. I truly believe Washington is content with not taking a quarterback. After the move to get Ryan Fitzpatrick, I wouldn't rule them out 100%. I'd put quarterback and them drafting one at about 10%. Okay? It's not dead, but it's highly unlikely at this point. And I'm not just talking about at 19. Forget about 19. They're not drafting a quarterback at 19 unless by the grace of God, somebody falls into their lap or they get an opportunity to move up and they can't pass that up. And it's their guy, the one that they wanted all along. I just don't see Washington being aggressive going after a quarterback after acquiring Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think they're more along the lines of, hey, if we stumble into a guy we like, we had a 3rd round grade on him, we're sitting here, it's the 4th round. All right, why not? Why the hell not? But I don't think they're looking to address quarterback this year. I think they're going to ride with the 3 guys that they have, and they'll try again next year. That's the way I view this whole thing. And if they have to swing big next year to get their guy, I told you they seem like they're in lockstep with the philosophy that I threw out this past season, which is, hey, build the infrastructure. Seattle Seahawks, 20 teens model. Build the infrastructure. Drop quarterback inside once you're done. Build. Brick by brick by brick by brick. Build. Brick by brick by brick by brick. Drop quarterback inside. So this is another brick by brick by brick, build type of season, an off season. And then next year might be the year they finally say, okay, got the defense where we need to. We addressed corner. We addressed linebacker. We got us a safety. We're good on defense now. Got offensive weaponry. Now, maybe we upgraded tackle or maybe we didn't, and this is the year we're going to do it. Whatever the case may be, they're going to be in a position where they're like, all right, we got everything we need. Now we're just missing the quarterback. Let's see if we can't find him. Let's see what they do. They're not trading for Darnold, though. That would have been something they would have explored had they not signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. That ship has sailed. There will be no Sam Darnold in Washington. JP, my man John Perez, thank you for the super chat. JP writes, JOK, Bateman, or Surtain at 19. Rashad Bateman will definitely be there. I don't even think he's an option at this point. With what they've done at receiver, 19, again, unless that receiver came from Alabama or LSU, okay? Each school is presenting 2 options in the first round for every team to choose from, okay? Most teams won't get to look at the first LSU option, and a lot of teams won't get to look at the first Alabama option. But most teams will get a look at both second options at both schools, okay? So unless one of those receivers is of the LSU or Bama variety, don't think that guy is even an afterthought for Washington at 19. Not after what they've done at receiver and with all the guys they have on the roster already. Not to say that the guys that we have on the rosters at this point are world beaters. Far from it. But they were playing out of place. And I've always said you need a number 1 receiver to properly slot all of your receivers. But what happens when you got a number 1, but you don't have a number 2? Well, the 1 is fine. He's properly slotted. But you still got everybody else playing out of place when you don't have a number 2. Normally you have a number 2 when you don't have a number 1. And so your 2 is posing as a 1 and that's not who he is, and then everything gets out of balance and whack. But what happens when you've got a 1, so he's fine, but then you don't have a 2, so now your 3 is playing like a 2, your 4 is playing like a 3, your 5 is playing like a 4, and a guy that shouldn't even be playing for you as a 6th option, should be on your practice squad, is getting a ton of reps like Isaiah Wright. He's playing as your 5th option. That's when you get into trouble. When guys that have no business being on the field are on the field. Or guys that have no business having number 2 wide receiver targets are getting number 2 wide receiver targets. Cam Sims is the 3rd option at best on a team. He was posing as a number 2 last year. And I thought at times he did a hell of a job as an imposter. However, he's not a number 2 wide receiver. So I think after getting Curtis Samuel and acquiring Adam Humphries, I think they feel good about wide receiver. Again, with Cam Sims coming back and still having Kelvin Harmon. Again, I don't know about any of the reports. Can't confirm nor deny Harmon's going to make the switch to tight end. I'm still assuming he is a wide receiver until further notice. You got AGG coming off of a redshirt freshman year. So there's a ton of options at receiver. I don't see them going receiver at 19. Unless it's an LSU guy or it's an Alabama guy. Surtain at 19, I think he's long gone. I've already presented to you what I think is going to be your option at corner. And that option is probably Caleb Farley. I think he might be available at 19. But Surtain, who was once thought to be a guy that could be around at 19, he now turns into the only corner worth taking in the top 15, I think, because of the injury history of one Caleb Farley. I think teams, they're not taking him off their board entirely. I just think they're going to be a little bit more selective. And when they decide to take him, I think he might get pushed back a bit. And so Farley might be available at 19. I don't think Surtain has a chance in hell of being available at 19. Just too many thirsty teams looking for help at the cornerback position. I think Philadelphia is still thirsty and looking for help at the cornerback position. I think the Cowboys are thirsty and definitely looking for help at the cornerback position. And so I just think that those teams right there present a challenge at 12, and I think the Cowboys are at 11, 10 or 11. Those teams pose a challenge to him getting all the way to 19, I believe. And JOK, I do think he's going to be available. I think the events of the last 5 days, the 2 trades, and Jamin Davis's pro day have really pushed a guy like JOK down a bit, and not significantly, you know. He's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to go somewhere, I think, before 20. You know, Buck might stop at 19 with Washington. It may not. We'll see. Let's see. We got another super chat. My man J Cam Man says, don't sign CJ Spiller. Talking about Spiller, CJ Spiller. That used to be my CJ Spiller song. Bear it down, and my man BD. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you as always. My man Barrett Downing writes, what up, Lou? What is the status of T Moss? Is he healthy? Great show as always, Lou. I told you guys I always forget about Thaddeus Moss. I really do. But the lack of aggression towards the tight end position this offseason when there were options available leads me to believe that they don't view the tight end position to be as bad off as we do, or they just have told themselves and convinced themselves, we'll take care of it in the draft. One way or the other. I am nervous about tight end, again, like I was last year. Okay, not as nervous because we do have something. Last year we thought we had nothing This year, we do at least have something at tight end. Okay, Logan Thomas is at least giving us something. We don't go into the season blind at tight end, but that's not enough. We need something else. And Thaddeus Moss, I would assume, I can't confirm nor deny this, and Ron Rivera hasn't been really asked about Thaddeus Moss. He's been asked about everybody but Thaddeus Moss. He's been asked about Bryce Love. He's been asked about Reuben Foster. I don't think anybody brought up Thaddeus Moss because, one, he was undrafted, and two, he didn't make the team. And hell, he barely even practiced before they put him on IR. So as of right now, Thaddeus Moss is an afterthought. I'm going to treat him as such. He's still on the team. I think they liked him. That's why they signed him last year as an undrafted rookie. And so my assumption is he was healthy at some point during the season. Remember, he was coming off of foot surgery around the combine. He had surgery after the season. Remember, he was a part of that great LSU 2019 offense and team that went undefeated and won the national championship. And shortly thereafter, he decided to have surgery, so he wasn't able to perform at the combine. A lot of people thought that that was the reason he went undrafted. I said, yeah, maybe, but I don't think people were that high on him. How many times have we seen guys get hurt or elect to have surgery and still get drafted? I don't think it was just the fact that he wasn't ready to go for a camp that teams said, nah, we're going to pass on him. Is that they didn't think he was all that talented. Like, they weren't blown away by anything he brought to the table. His measurables don't blow you away. His athleticism doesn't blow you away. He has tremendous hands. All right. And he's a physical blocker. He'll block, which I didn't really know until I turned on the tape. But I don't think anyone was all that smitten with Thaddeus Moss last year. And I think that's more along the lines of why he didn't get drafted and less of, oh, he wasn't ready. Did that contribute to it? Sure. The surgery and him not being ready and the recovery time and all of that stuff, yeah, maybe that had a bit to do with it. But he was probably at best a day 3 pick. And he went from a day 3 pick to undrafted. Maybe the surgery was what pushed him over to not being drafted. But I said all of that to say this. I don't think they're overly concerned about the tight end position like most of us are. I know I am. And there's a reason why. And maybe that reason has nothing to do with Thaddeus Moss or with Kelvin Harmon potentially making the switch to tight end or any of those things that, you know, Steven Montez, the weapon. I don't know if it has anything to do with any of that stuff, or Tamarick Hemingway, who we saw bits and pieces of last season. It could simply be that they are comfortable with where they sit in the draft, having 2 third-rounders, a mid-second rounder under their belt, and saying, we should be able to come away with a good tight end on day 2. And if we want to double down, we can get one later on in the draft if need be. We should come away with something on day 2 of the draft. We got 3 picks, 3 shots at getting a tight end. We'll be fine. Maybe that's why they're not concerned. Or maybe they're not concerned because they like Thaddeus Moss and they think he's going to have something come next season. So the status of him, I would assume he's healthy. I would assume he's healthy. I would assume he was healthy probably by October. They put him on IR because he wasn't practicing. And if he wasn't going to be able to practice and actually get up to speed, there was no way he was going to be able to make the roster and help. So they just said, all right, we'll put you on waivers. If nobody claims you, we'll have you back. And they did. So, I remember Cam Sims 2 years ago had an ankle injury in camp and into the preseason. And he could have played in the regular season. He would have been ready by like week 3. Washington put him on IR. His season was done before the season even started. Put him on IR. He was ready 3 weeks into the season. They do it all the time. Teams do it all the time. You got a guy, you want to hold on to him, but you just don't have a roster spot for him at that particular moment. You put him on IR. Nobody else knows what that guy's capable of. Nobody's eyeballing your stuff. So you can sneak him through waivers, put him on your practice squad, or in this case, put him on IR and just let him sit and watch, heal up, whatever the case may be. They did it with Thaddeus Moss. He's healthy. Trust me. Barring any kind of setback, and I haven't heard anything, but I'd put any amount of money on it. He's healthy by now. Just a matter now of what kind of shape is he in, and is he a guy that they feel like can help? Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. Got another super chat. This one is from Razik Kelvin. Thank you for the super chat, Razik Kelvin, who writes, what's the chances Aaron Rodgers to Washington in 2022? I would not rule it out. Now, here's the thing. I believe Aaron Rodgers would still be under contract after this. Let's look it up. Why guess, right? No need in doing that. When we got a perfectly good mobile device sitting right here in front of you, begging to be used, let's look at Aaron Rodgers' contract for the 2022 season. See what he looks like. I don't think this is his last year. I know the Packers wanted to restructure, but I think they wanted to restructure this year because of how high his cap number was. And it was kind of hampering them from making any moves this offseason. So they could get out of the deal after this upcoming season. Absolutely. They could. And it would be a dead cap hit of $17 million if they wanted to move on from Aaron Rodgers. So technically speaking, which the Packers wouldn't do, if you're going to move on from Aaron Rodgers, you're going to trade him. You're not going to just let him walk away. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Technically speaking, he's not a free agent, an unrestricted free agent until the 2024 season. So theoretically speaking, if you trade for Rodgers and you don't trade and you don't tear up his contract, you'd have him under contract for 2 more seasons. So let's talk about that. What are the chances Aaron Rodgers to Washington in 2022? So here's the first thing I think about. Guys like Aaron Rodgers always, boy. Okay? Let me go a little Pebbles on you. Always, boy. Guys like Aaron Rodgers always have a no trade clause in their contract. Always have a no trade clause in their contract. So, the first thing you have to think of is, does Aaron Rodgers consider Washington a championship contender with him on it? So, essentially what I'm saying to you is we can't take a step back this year with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. If we were to go 9-8 and just barely miss the playoffs, but you look at this team and you say, man, Fitzpatrick threw at least 3 or 4 games away with some boneheaded throws late in ball games. They could have easily been 12-5 if Fitzpatrick didn't have some of those late game chicanery moments that we've been accustomed to seeing from him throughout his career. Or 8-9, whatever the case may be. But we got to be hovering around that 500 mark. Remember, there's no more 500. You're either above the Mendoza line or you're below it with the 17-game schedule in full effect this upcoming season and moving forward. But if Rodgers looks at us and says they're heading in the right direction, they got weapons, and I could do a Tom Brady with them. Remember, the Buccaneers weren't a winning team. They weren't coming off of a playoff season. They were coming off of 9-7 with Jameis Winston, and everybody's saying, if only they had a quarterback. Look at all the weapons they have in Tampa. Insert Tom Brady Super Bowl champs. I'm not saying that's what's happening in Washington. Whoa. I don't want to read a week from now or 3 weeks from now, Louie T said we could get Aaron Rodgers and win the Super Bowl next year. That's not, I repeat, not what I just said. I'm just saying, in order to attract a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you would have to build upon what you did last season. 7-9 division winners And you'd have to go at least 9-8. Again, that might not be good enough for the postseason, but people know. People see what's going on. If Rodgers is able to look at this roster and say, I get in Washington with that defense, those receivers, that running back, I can win a Super Bowl right now. Then I think he'd waive his no trade clause if Washington was interested. And trust me, we're not going to be the only team interested in 38, 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers, however the hell old he'll be. Matter of fact, let's look that up while we're at it. See how old he'll be then. He'll be 39 in 2022. 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers. We won't be the only ones trying to get our hands, if he's still playing at the level he was playing at last year and in the upcoming season. If that upcoming season looks anything like last year's MVP season, yeah, we're not going to be the only ones clamoring for 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers. However, the chances I would say right now are slim and none. Just like I feel about any other quarterback with the resume of an Aaron Rodgers, they generally don't choose Washington. And as I've mentioned, if you're looking to acquire a guy like that in a trade, normally they have a no trade clause. You know, so let me say this. I'm doing some catching up on the Kevin Sheehan Show podcast. And I think all of you who have bared with me as I've been way behind, and I know somebody was urging me to listen to the Jay Gruden interview that he did. And I did. And I had already listened to the Ben Standing one. I had referenced that multiple times. Finally got to the episode where Kevin does a sit down with Jay Gruden, some really good stuff. And he brought up the Kirk situation and wanting to get something out of that. He also mentioned a bunch of things, but one of the things that I found interesting was that I can't remember what I was about to say. Anyway, forget about all that. On another podcast that I was listening to with Kevin, in these episodes that I'm playing catch up on, he mentioned that Matthew Stafford mentioned that he thought he was going to go to Washington, or it was like 3 destinations and Washington was one of them, which meant he was fine with coming to Washington. He did not have a no trade clause, did Matthew Stafford. Okay? He did not have a no trade clause. So he didn't have any say so as to where he went, but he did have an understanding with the Detroit Lions where he went to them and said, hey, look, just do me a favor. Don't send me here, 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 or here. Anywhere else, you get a great deal, go ahead and do what you got to do. I get it. It's a business. We weren't one of those teams, apparently. He was ready to pack his bags and come to Washington had our deal been the best and the Lions chose us. They chose the Rams. I found that interesting. The narrative is changing on Washington. That's all I'm saying. If that trade were being done by Bruce Allen 2 years ago, there's no way in hell Matthew Stafford would have been willing to even entertain the fact and thought of coming to Washington. Shit's changing. That's all I'm saying. Shit's changing in Washington. Now, we still got a long ways to go, but it's changing. But it's changing so much so that a guy like Aaron Rodgers may not be opposed to donning the burgundy and gold next season. We'll see. Or 2022, I should say. Not the upcoming season, but the season that follows. Highly unlikely. I'd put that at 2% right now. That's the chances I give it. 2%. Thank you for the super chat. Razik Kelvin. Got another super chat. This one is from David Sanchez. Thank you for the super chat, David. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My man Dave Sanchez writes, thoughts on Trayvon Moehrig at 19. I haven't watched Trayvon Moehrig, but only in passing. Okay. Watching someone else and he shows up. I don't think he is worthy of 19, however. That's just a personal opinion without factual standing to back that up. Without any foundation, fact-wise, to back that up. Okay? That's just a hunch. Now, I may come on here 3 weeks from now and say, Trayvon Moehrig is definitely in play at 19. That's realistically a possibility. Okay? But as I sit here on March 31st, I don't think Trayvon Moehrig is in play at 19. Don't think that's what Washington is. I think they would take a tackle before they take a safety. Like, there's a pecking order to what they're thinking about doing at 19. I don't think free safety is one of the things that trumps offensive tackle. I don't think that trumps corner. I don't think that trumps linebacker. I don't think that even trumps tight end, per se, if they could get their hands on something elite. I think free safety is a little bit further down the list. It's a need. Keep in mind, here were my needs coming into this offseason. Before we signed a single free agent, wide receiver number 2 was my number 1 need, followed by middle linebacker, or linebacker in general. We need multiple linebackers, but middle linebacker before anything else. Tight end was the 3rd need. Cornerback, and that's before we lost Darby. Okay? I was saying cornerback was a need because I knew we were going to lose Fabian Moreau. The depth that we had. And I'm not sold on Jimmy Moreland as a nickel. So I looked at the landscape of the cornerback position in Washington and I said, we're one injury away or something happening from us being from the penthouse to the outhouse. So in my mind, I'm like, we need more corner depth. And then came free safety on my list of needs. So I didn't even put tackle up here because I don't deem it to be a need. It's a want. But that's a want that's higher than the need of free safety. So Trayvon Moehrig at 19 for me is way down the list. I think they go in a number of different directions. Obviously, wide receiver number 2 is off the list. I got something to say about that too. Hopefully I don't forget. Middle linebacker, definitely still in play. Tight end still in play. Cornerback still in play. And now you add in tackle to the mix. And I would not dismiss receiver if one of those Bama guys or maybe an LSU guy tickles their fancy. I don't think they're going receiver at 19, though, personally, because I just don't think anybody that they would really love will be there. And I think Devontae Smith is the only guy that they will be willing to bypass all of the other positions that they're targeting to select at 19. I think they really like Devontae Smith. From what I've gathered, what I'm hearing, I think they really like Devontae Smith. I don't think they feel like they're going to be in a position to get him. I don't think they're trading up for him, but if he were to fall into their lap, I think they would love to add him to the mix. But again, we will see. Thank you for the super chat and doubling up, David Sanchez. Got a super chat here from GearCell1. Thank you for the super chat, GearCell1. Greatly appreciate you. Let's see what we got. Enjoyed the Florida Pro Day, especially Pitts wearing the throwback corduroy spandex. You better watch out. You could start a fire. He was moving in those corduroy spandex. He was moving. 4-4-4. Moses Malone, 4-4-4. That's how you start a fire in corduroy spandex. The Florida Pro Day was very enjoyable. Lots of athletes on display today, among other guys and other pro days that took place. This was a really jam-packed day for pro days, and a lot of guys showed out and made themselves a ton of money. Thank you for the super chat and the comedic relief. As always, GearCell1. Got another super chat. This one is from my guy, Martin Matthews, a.k.a. Double M. Martin Matthews writes, first of all, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Double M, who writes, hey, Louie, Ron isn't known for trading up or back, and we know he likes Zaven. So I'm thinking Zaven at 19, make him the middle linebacker, or the Joker, and make Cole the starting middle linebacker. What do you think? I don't think they're going to move Cole. They had every opportunity to do that last year. And maybe with an offseason and an opportunity for Cole to get acclimated, they could make a positional switch there. They didn't want to do it in season because it didn't make a ton of sense. You're asking a guy to switch positions on the fly during the course of the season. And now you're taking a guy away from one position, adding him to another, but you don't have anybody to put in his place because they didn't love any of their options at either weak or strong side backer if you were to take Cole Holcomb out of the strong side linebacker position and move him inside. Not like John Bostic could then go over there and play, strong side backer, which he probably could theoretically, but that's not why they signed him to a 2-year deal to come back. They signed him to be a middle linebacker. So anything's possible. Highly unlikely that they move Cole Holcomb. I think they've pegged him at strong side backer. I think they like what they got out of him last year, and I think he's going to continue to mature there. That said, we know that Ron loves Zaven, or likes. You put likes. I don't know that. How do you know that? How do we know that he is somewhat infatuated with Zaven Collins? I don't know this to be a fact. I haven't been told this. Maybe you have some insider information. Maybe you know something that I don't. But at this point, Zaven looks like a guy that isn't going in the top 20 picks. I just think that he's a talented guy, but I think he's more suited for the back end of the first round, personally. I think Zaven Collins becomes a real option at picks 24 through 32. I don't think he's going to go in the top 23 picks, personally. I just see too much of a spillage. Like, there are going to be guys that are going to be impacted negatively by the spillage. Zaven Collins, who was a border top 20 pick, I think he's one of those guys that gets pushed back due to the spillage. Like, somebody's got to absolutely love him for them to pluck him out of all of the guys that are going to be here that have no business being here. They got to go out of their way to say, excuse me, hey, Surtain the second, watch out. Hey, Devontae Smith, could you pardon me? Okay. Hey, guy, JOK, move. Let me get Zaven Collins. Come on. Like, that's a little far-fetched when you start thinking about all the guys that are going to get pushed down the board and all of the... look, there could be a guy like Gregory Rousseau, who we just assumed was going to get drafted. He could get pushed back, too. You know what I mean? There could be other guys that we thought. Kwity Paye is a name we keep hearing over and I can see Kwity Paye's ass getting pushed all the way back to the end of the first round. I got an end of the first round grade on him. Somebody could fall in love with him and take him. But a guy like Kwity Paye that doesn't have any production and you're projecting, you got a known commodity in front of you that you feel like is going to come in, help you right away, and get better, or you got a commodity that you've got to coach up and hope that he reaches his potential, but he's got talent. There's a question there, and in this particular draft, you want the known commodity versus the upside guy, because in past drafts, the upside guy would be in high demand. I think it's the production guys with some upside, not necessarily as much as the low production, high upside guy. Those are normally in high demand because the guys that have the production and the upside usually go in the top 10. And so now you're left picking from the next group, which is fine. You're still getting a really good player more times than not. But I think this year with the spillage, because of 5 quarterbacks, because of a tight end, because of a linebacker, and potentially having 7 top 10 picks spoken for, You can get a bunch of spillage, and a guy like Zaven Collins, I think, ends up being your odd man out. One of your odd men out that gets pushed back. He might not even be a first-round pick. I know that sounds crazy to some of you. Let me say this again. For those of you all the way in the back that are a little hard of hearing, or maybe my voice doesn't project loud enough to you, I'm going to say it again. There are only 32 selections in the first round, not 64. We talked for 3 months about 80 guys and how all of them are going to be first round picks. And that list is going to be trimmed to 32. Okay? More likely than not, Nick Bolton, not a first round pick. More likely than not, Zaven Collins, not a first round pick. There are guys that we've talked about at 19 that might not be a first round pick. Very, very likely. Wrap your brain around that. Now, I'm not saying they're not going to be first round picks. Anything could happen. All it takes is one. One is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. Number. All it takes is one. One team to say, that's my guy. You coming with me. But all it takes is for 32 teams to say, or it's not 32 teams, more like 29, because not every team has a first round pick. But 29, 28, all it takes is for 29, 28 teams to say, hey, really like your talent, but I'm going to go over here. If you're still there in the second round, though, I got you. So, I don't know about Zaven Collins, man. I'm going to keep it a buck with you, okay? I talked about quarterbacks getting pushed up. I talked about offensive tackle getting pushed up. There are a lot of positions that get pushed up. One position that doesn't get pushed up is linebacker. That tends to get pushed back. When push comes to shove and it starts to become a tug of war, offensive line, linebacker, we know who's going to win that tug of war. When it's quarterback, linebacker, we know who's going to win that war. When it's wide receiver, linebacker, we know who's going to win that war. Okay? Receivers get pushed up. Linebackers get pushed back. That's a good thing for us. We need linebackers. Okay? So you should hope that Zaven Collins doesn't go in the first round. You should hope that Nick Bolton doesn't go in the first round. Now, it could be a run on those guys in the second round very early. And if you want your guy, you may have to go up. But I'm willing to come up and get a guy if you target a guy as your guy. I'm willing to take 51 and one of those third round picks we have, package it up, and get to 37 if need be. To get the guy that we want. You should be willing to do that too. But what I'm telling you is, if there's a position that we've been talking about because we need linebackers, so we're fixated on linebacker. If there's a position that's going to get pushed down in this draft, it's going to be linebacker. No, I'm not saying you're not going to see 3 of those guys potentially go in the first round because you may see 3 of them go in the first round. We know Micah Parsons is going in the first round. We know JOK is going in the first round. Is Jamin Davis going in the first round? Sounds like he's going in the first round. After that, can you be assured that any of these other linebackers are going in the first round? Jabril Cox is not going in the first round. He wasn't going in the first round. He's not going in the first round. Zaven Collins was never guaranteed to go in the first round. I don't think he's going in the first round with all this spillage. Again, all it takes is one. He could end up in the back end of the first round. He's a first round talent. So I can see him going in the first round. Nick Bolton was a fringe first rounder. Somehow, some way, you guys have managed to push Nick Bolton all the way up to 19. Nick Bolton is he's not worthy of the 19th pick in the draft. He's a talented football player. I'd love to have him in Washington. Not at 19. You can do better than that at 19. And again, I talk about this all the time. Get your guy when you feel the need to get your guy. If they took Nick Bolton at 19, I would not be mad at all. He's a talented football player. But if you told me Nick Bolton was on the board, so was JOK, so was Zaven Collins, so was Devontae Smith, and let's say that Christian Darrisaw was on the board, and we took Nick Bolton, I might have an issue with that. A lot of talent here. Feel like we just settled for Nick Bolton because we had a need. That's when you get into that. Did we just reach for a need, or did we actually take the best player available that was on our board? feels like we just kind of reached for a need a bit. That's not, you guys have to get out of that mentality of, hey, we need a linebacker, so at 19, I want this guy. No, that's not how this works. You'll get a linebacker. We'll get a linebacker. If the guy that we want is available at 19 and he doesn't play linebacker and he plays a position that you're not thinking about, but he's a talented football player, I want them to select that guy. Whether it's a tackle, it's a wide receiver, you can say, we don't need any more wide receivers. Well, bullshit. Because we could definitely upgrade over AGG. We could definitely upgrade over Cam Sims. My man, John Perez, JP, stays trying to put a receiver on us at 19. I don't blame him. I know why JP keeps trying to toss Rashad Bateman into the discussion and keeps trying to toss Devontae Smith or one of these receivers on us at 19, because you can never have enough. You can never have enough. So for me, the linebacker position looks like one that can be pushed towards the back, because you best believe, you bet your ass, okay, quarterback's going to get pushed up. We're going to see 5 of those go in the first round. Wide receiver's going to get pushed up. I think we're going to see 5 or 6, just like we saw last year. Okay? Remember, 32 picks. If there's 5 quarterbacks, 6 receivers, that's 11 players out of 32 right there. Don't think for 1 second that the offensive tackles ain't going to get theirs. There'll be 4 or 5 of those gone in the first round as well. Let's just go with 5. Let's just say 6 offensive linemen total go in the first round. That's about the going rate year after year after year. You usually get 4 or 5 tackles and a guard or something like that, a center, somebody. That's 16 players. 17 if you add in a guard. And it looks like Elijah Vera Tucker is going to go out of USC at some point in the first round, more likely than not. Somebody's going to take him. That's 17 players. And we didn't even talk about tight end, which they're going to have 1. Linebacker, which will probably have 2 or 3. Corner, which will probably have 2 or 3. Maybe a 4th. Got to cover these receivers that you're drafting. Last year, we saw a bunch of corners go. What, we see 6 corners go? I don't think anybody had more than 3 going in the first round last year. We saw like 6 of those boys go in the first round, including a couple of big-time reaches, we thought, at least. So, again, I didn't even bring up edge rusher. You think people are just going to not draft edge rushers? You got 5 quarterbacks going. You think teams aren't going to try to bag these boys? They're going to be at least 4 or 5 edge rushers that go in the first round. You see where I'm going with this? Safeties don't get pushed up, they get pushed back. So a Trayvon Moehrig, you get him in the second round. He's not even a thought at 19. We thought Xavier McKinney last year out of Alabama was a good football player. Nobody even brought him up until the Giants selected him in the second round. I was like, whoa. No safeties went in the first round last year. That's what happens to the safety position. That's what happens to linebacker a lot of times. They get pushed back. Offensive line, wide receiver, quarterback, all get pushed up. I can't tell you if there'll be a first round running back or not. There are 2 that look like they could be first round picks. Will either one of them get drafted in the first round? I don't know. That's another position that usually gets pushed back. So I can't tell you. But I don't see us taking Xavier Collins at 19. Again, I could be wrong. Could be wrong. But I see a guy like Xavier Collins being negatively impacted by the spillage. He's one of those guys that gets pushed back. As quarterback gets pushed up, as wide receiver gets pushed up, as offensive tackle gets pushed up, as an extra tight end and linebackers get pushed up. The big 3. Now we're saying it's amazing. It was just the big 2 a second ago with JOK and Michael Parsons. Now, Jamin Davis. Watch out, guys. Make way for Jamin Davis. Here he comes. Guy like Zaven Collins and Nick Bolton and all of these guys that we were talking about as fringe first rounders, those guys start to get pushed back. So, we'll see, man. You know, J.C. Horn is a guy that a lot of people like. He may end up in the first round. We can see more players at the cornerback position than you think. So, I said all of that to say this. I don't think Zaven Collins is going to be the pick at 19. So, we'll see. And I don't see them moving Cole Holcomb either. Thank you for the super chat, Martin Matthews, my man Double M. Get caught up. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Get caught up. Rights. With tomorrow being April 1st, I can't help but get those draft jitters. Last year just wasn't the same excitement as it normally is. Looking forward to tuning into your live draft show. Love the show. I felt the same way, man. Like, before COVID hit last year, I was gonna, so I'm gonna let y'all in on a little something. I think I've said this. I might not have. I might have. If I'm repeating myself, pardon me. But I was planning on taking the show on the road. I was going to have a big draft party. I was going to pick an establishment up in the DMV area, invite all of y'all to come out. We were going to have a good time, celebrate the draft, watch it together, you know, the first round, and have a draft party, a legit draft party. I always have my draft parties in the comfort of my own home. I was ready to take mine out to the streets and really be like, hey, seriously, we out here. Come find your man. Come holler at your boy. And COVID hit, shut everything down. So that was dead on arrival last year. This would have been a great year to do it. It's still a little iffy. I'm not comfortable. I don't think establishments are comfortable having as many people as I'm trying to have come out for a draft party. But this would have been the perfect year. Washington has the 19th pick in the draft. So there's like last year, Washington had the second pick, and we already knew what we were doing with that pick. So you want to get excited, but, I mean, how do you really get I mean, I'm excited because I'm a football fan. A lot of you are just Washington fans. You don't give a shit about any other team. So as soon as Washington makes their pick, you celebrate for 5 minutes, and you're ready to carry your ass home. That's not fun. You know, you want to be able to let the excitement build, and what are we going to do with 19? Oh, it was a trade. How does that impact Washington? Oh, look at all these players are still on the board. Like, you want that excitement to build up. This would have been the perfect year for me to pick an establishment, have a draft party, have y'all come out. We have a couple of adult beverages as we're watching the draft. We record it live, and we just have a blast. That's going to happen. Trust me. That's on the docket for, you know, the near future. Whenever things get back to a normal state where we can congregate and come together in an establishment and not have to worry about 15 people walking out of the building with COVID, we're gonna have one of these draft parties. This year is much different than last year. Much different. There's an excitement around the team. We were excited about Chase Young, but we knew we were getting Chase Young. We knew what the pick was. We knew what time it was. We were second. Okay? It's not like we were fifth and we had to wait and see if he was gonna fall to us. They were taking Joe Burrow. They is in Cincinnati. We were taking Chase Young. It was a foregone conclusion. So this year, 19 holds a lot of mystery and intrigue. We don't know what the hell is going to happen. We don't know. We've already seen 2 trades, and we're still a month out from the draft. Those 2 trades definitely impact what happens at 19 because it's a ripple effect. So we're not even a month away from the draft. Well, we're close to it. We're a month away from the draft, essentially. And probably less than a month at this point because it's April the 29th through May the 1st. So we're essentially a month away from the draft. And we still don't know what's going to happen. But we know that there's a lot of intrigue surrounding our pick. And for that, I'm excited. I'm really excited. So I feel just like you do, get caught up. Get caught up, get caught up. And I know that ain't the song, but every time I hear about that, that's what I think of. Thank you for the super chat. Get caught up. Get caught up, get caught up. Anyway, appreciate you. Got a super chat here from Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Alexander the Great writes, what up, Lou? Always miss the lives, but I watch every video. Keep up the great work. I got a gem drop. I got a gem to drop too. Hit the damn like button, y'all. There it is. The second mention of the like button on the night. The first came from my guy. Let me see if he can come back to me. Donald. And now my man Donald Gray. And the second one is coming from Alexander the Great. Y'all heard the man. Hit the damn like button. You haven't hit it already? It's 400 and some change of y'all out there. I am going to go ahead and take this opportunity since Alex gave me the segue. He threw me the alley. I'm going to go ahead and dunk it then. Subscribe to the LouieTeeNetwork if you haven't already done so. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. I heard notification bells are tripping these days. So I'm going to do my part to make sure that I notify you myself. But turn on that notification bell anyway. Who knows? Your bell might not be faulty. You might actually have one of the bells that work. And if you haven't hit the like button, as Alexander the Great just said, hit the damn like button. I really do appreciate you, Alexander, for having a quick little public, what do we call these? What are these called? Shucks, I can't think of what they're called. We're just going to call it a public announcement. But that's not what I was trying to think of. It's public something. Public service announcement. That's what they're called. Thank you for that public service announcement, Alexander the Great. Greatly appreciate you. And glad you were able to catch the live this time. I really do appreciate you supporting the Louie T Network, watching these videos when you can, whether you can watch it live or not. As long as you're supporting and watching, that's all I care about, man. Glad that you were able to catch it live this time around, though. Really do appreciate you. Got another super chat. This one is from Chris Davis. Thank you for the super chat, Chris Davis. Greatly appreciate you. My man Chris Davis writes, love you and your content. You helped me get through college. Put your heartless GM cap on. Do you think trading Daron Payne gets us a first? Would you do it? Damn, Chris. That is heartless. I wouldn't trade Daron Payne. For all of the noise that I made when we drafted him, and I still stand by that. I would much rather have your boy from Vitek that's in Buffalo right now. That's the guy I wanted. That said, Daron Payne, he's a stud, man. He's, of all of the Bama defensive tackles, I think he is the best of that group that we've seen, you know, and there's been, I think it started with Marcel Darius, and I think Darius might have had one big year in Buffalo where he put up some gaudy numbers, but I don't think he ever matched that again. But you start with Darius and you end with the kid that was taken last year, and I thought he had the most talent of anybody, but I don't feel like he's done anything to this point yet. The dude with the braces, damn, I forgot his name, that the Jets took, Quentin Williams. I thought he had the most talent of any of them that I saw. Quentin Williams did. But this Christian Barmore that's coming out of Alabama this year, defensive tackle, I'm not hyped on him at all. So, of that group, Quentin Williams, I think, had the most talent, but I think ultimately Daron Payne might have the most productive NFL career. And Jaron Reed has been really good. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse right now. But I think Daron Payne at some point will surpass him if he continues to play. And on this, he's on an incline right now. He continues to get better and better if he continues to grow as a football player. Because I think we were playing him in the wrong scheme the first few years in the 3-4. I think he's more suited for a base 4-3 defense where he can just shoot the gaps, get up the field and be aggressive, not have to two gap, just one gap, get up the field. I think that's more suited for what he is as a football player. And we got to see that past season. I thought he was exceptional. And imagine when you get Ioannidis back and you get a pass rushing interior defensive tackle in there. Payne started to show a little something towards the end. He was the guy that got to Brady twice in that game, if you recall. We didn't get to Brady that much at all. He was the guy that got there a couple of times. So, I wouldn't trade Daron Payne. I wouldn't do it. He's part of what we're trying to build defensively. We keep talking about this vaunted defensive line. You can't start hacking away at that if you want the defensive line to be the anchor that drives this defense. You got to continue to let these guys grow now. The defensive tackles aren't who I'm worried about. Like, you can pay those guys. They don't have to walk. It's the defensive ends you should be worried about. You're not going to be able to re-sign both of them, just one of them. But again, that's off in the distance. We'll worry about that bridge when we got to cross it. We still a ways away from that. But Daron Payne, we'll be able to re-sign him. So I'm not worried about Payne. I wouldn't trade him. Could we get a first-round pick for him? Yeah, we could. I think you could get a first, because you spent a first-round pick on him. He's been really good, and there's tremendous upside with him still, and he's got multiple years left on his rookie contract. So, yeah, if we were to trade him like draft night, day one, we were to move him and say we wanted to get back into the first round, and Payne was the way we wanted to do that. Say there was a guy that we wanted at 27, and that team said, we don't want your second round pick. We don't want 51. We don't want next year's second round pick to come back into the first. We want Daron Payne. Throw in a 6th round pick next year and we'll call it a deal. Would you do it? I don't know. Who we coming up to get? I wouldn't trade him. I'm asking you, would you do it? I wouldn't do it. I told you that I didn't want to trade Montez Sweat. I didn't want to throw him in a deal for Deshaun Watson. And you guys were like, you're crazy. It's a quarterback. And I told you, I don't give a shit about draft capital. I don't care about draft picks. Give them shits away. I want known commodities. I know what Daron Payne is. I want him. I know what Montez Sweat is. I want him on my team. They're known commodities. They're havoc wreakers. They're difference makers. I want that on my team. Too many of you are willing to go after the unknown and sacrifice the known commodity. You don't know what's behind door number 2. You're willing to find out. I'm more of safe but sorry. I'd much rather be safe than sorry. So I don't need to know what's behind door number 2. You tell me that Daron Payne's behind door number 1, I'm going to stick with door number 1. You're hoping that you open up door number 2 and it's Aaron Donald. It could be Aaron Donald. It also could be Stacey McGee behind door number 2. Okay? It could be Terrell McClain behind door number 2. And that's the problem, is that too many of you are so ready to move on from a guy that's showing you that he's talented and that he's ascending in order to see if the next big thing is behind door number 2. I'm not. I know what Payne is. I'm trying to grow with what we got. It's hard for us to keep preaching, build. Let's build this defense into a bully. Let's take the next step. You know the teams that take the next step? The teams that have been playing together. You think Tampa Bay did that overnight? Yeah, Brady was new. You know, all the rest of those parts, for the most part, they've been there. How many years has Mike Evans been trying to get to the playoffs? To hell with a Super Bowl, just the playoffs. How long you think Levante David's been struggling in Tampa trying to win games to get to the postseason? Vita Vea. Like, these are all guys that have been there. They've been a part of the struggle. So there was continuity there already. They just dropped Brady in. Boop. Got a tackle for Brady after they got him. Went out and got Gronk because Brady could do that. Went out and got A.B. because Brady could do that. But all the other stuff was there. The Chris Godwins of the world, the Shaq Barretts of the world, the JPPs of the world, Levante Davids of the world, Mike Evans, okay, Cameron Brate. All of those dudes were already there. Donovan Smith at left tackle who kicked Chase Young's ass. All of those dudes were already there. The infrastructure was there. They just needed to drop. Take Jameis Winston's ass out, throw him away, drop Tom Brady in. Touchdown. Super Bowl. So, I'm not looking to blow nothing up. I don't want to trade Daron Payne. I got my GM cap on, nice and snug and fitted. Keeping my stuff, man. Because I know how each and every single one of these boys operates. Know what I'm getting out of Daron Payne. Know what I'm getting out of Jonathan Allen. Know what I'm getting out of Matt Ioannidis. Know what I'm getting out of Chase Young. Know what I'm getting out of Montez Sweat. Now I need to continue to build around that. Know what I'm getting out of Cole Holcomb. These are known commodities. Want to hold on to the known commodities. Got William Jackson now. Got Kendall Fuller. Feel good about those guys. You're missing a spot at linebacker. You're missing another spot at linebacker. And you got question marks at the safety positions. Fill them. That's what you should be working on. Shouldn't be worried about getting rid of any of the known commodities. You should be worried about filling all the question marks. Question mark at linebacker, question mark at another linebacker spot, question mark at safety, question mark at another safety spot. Don't know what Landon Collins is. And I think we like, a lot of you love, I like Cam Curl. It's 1 year of Cam Curl. Let me see it again. Do it again. No, do it again. Let me see it. Do it again. He does it again. Now that's a position filled. That's a known commodity. And now you just got one question mark at safety and two at linebacker. But he's got to do it again. You flip it on to the offensive side. The whole offensive line, if we're able to solidify left tackle and Brandon Sheriff gets a long-term deal, I'm still holding out hope that happens before July 15th. But if you're able to lock down a left tackle, that whole line is accounted for. You're good on the offensive line. We like what we see at running back. Quarterback's a massive question mark, obviously. We're still waiting on results from that and what we're going to do there long term. But we got a number one wide receiver in Terry McLaurin. Even though some people believe that's debatable, that's fine. Everybody's got their own opinion. I'm not here to sway anybody. I know what I've seen. I got 2 years of empirical proof that Terry's a legitimate number one wide receiver. So I'm rolling with that, and he's only getting better. They went out and got Curtis Samuel. I'm going to tell you this right now. I still got to see it. I'm going to give you a comment straight out of the lips of Curtis Samuel. So we'll talk about that later, but receivers starting to take shape. Still think work needs to be done there. Still need to see some of these guys on the roster develop and find out if they can or they can't. Because if you look at Tampa Bay, look how deep they went at receiver. Scotty Miller was a draft pick 2 years ago. Made some of the biggest catches of their season this year, including the touchdown before halftime against Green Bay. To me, that was the one that really hurt. Totally different game is if it's a field goal before halftime, 17-10 versus 21-10. Totally different ball game. Changes everything. But even when they had injuries or even when they were struggling, they had a 5th round draft pick out of Minnesota. Step in and do work. We couldn't even ask AGG to blow his nose correctly without blood coming out of it last year. And I like the kid and I want him to succeed. But they got serious production. The biggest play of the NFC Championship game involved a rookie getting molested and a first down, game over. One of the biggest plays of the game the week prior against the Saints involved that same rookie making a catch on a 3rd down when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were on the ropes. we don't need to get rid of known commodities. We need to find the guys to complement the known commodities we have on the roster. So, no, I wouldn't trade Daron Payne. I wouldn't trade Jonathan Allen. I wouldn't trade Montez Sweat or Chase Young or any of the known commodities that I have. I want them here. They're a part of the foundation and the nucleus of what we're trying to build. Instead of moving on from those guys and trying to build with what we get from moving on from one of those guys, how about we hold on to them? That's been the problem in Washington for too long, is that we draft guys, we develop them, and then we let them flourish elsewhere. It's our time to start drafting guys, helping them grow and nourish them here, and then watching the fruits of our labor here. So no, I don't want Daron Payne going anywhere else. Thank you for the super chat, Chris Davis. Really appreciate you too, Chris. DMV made 301. Thank you for the super chat. Who writes, hey Lou, seeing how last year's first rounders went for Tampa and the Jets, I'm excited about the chance to draft a prospect like Darius Leonard. Thoughts? Yeah. It went really well for them. I was a massive Mekhi Becton fan. Said he was the best tackle in the draft. He was destroying people last year. Destroying people. I remember watching the Rams game last year when they beat the Jets, or when the Jets beat the Rams, excuse me. When the Rams hadn't won a game yet. And they went to Los Angeles and they beat the Rams for their first win of the season. And there was a run play late in that ball game. I want to say it was the run that put the game out of reach for the Jets. The Rams were down like 17-0 at halftime, and they started roaring back. And everybody felt, okay, here come the Rams. They're going to win this game. The Jets may not score another point. And he took the whole left side of that defensive line, and he just caved that shit in. And the running back, I want to say it was Frank Gore, man. Forever Frank been in so many damn places. I can't keep count. I don't know if he was in Miami this year, if he was with the Jets this year. I feel like he was with the Jets. I want to say it was Forever Frank. And he just did the little Forever Frank thing where he barrels down into this little small package. And he didn't even need to do that, because literally that man mass known as Mekhi Becton just engulfed that whole left side of that defensive line and washed that thing down about 3 gaps. It felt like 3 gaps. And he scored a touchdown. And I thought to myself, well, goddamn. We used to have that in Washington once upon a time. That's nice. You know, seeing Tristan Wirfs go to Tampa and dominate at right tackle. That's nice. Yeah, look, it's not sexy. Drafting an offensive tackle, it's almost the equivalent of sitting out in the first round. It's not the same because you're getting somebody, but there's no excitement and joy in drafting a tackle. Now, if you're a firm believer in building up the offensive and defensive lines, then yeah, you're damn right, that's exciting. And you have to do it. It's a necessity. It's a necessary evil. It ain't fun, it ain't pretty, but damn it, it's gritty and it gets you dubs. So while a lot of people wouldn't be excited about a Christian Darrisaw at 19, if that's what they think they need and that's what they decide to do, I'm on board. It isn't as sexy as drafting a linebacker or drafting a wide receiver or drafting a corner or drafting a tight end. It's not as sexy as drafting one of these skill guys where you can say, this guy runs 4.4. Or this guy had 80 catches last year. Did you see his pro day? Did you see his game against Florida? Did you see him play against Bama? This guy's a beast. Eh, not the same. You get a little bit of pancake syrup on top. Yeah, that's cool, but doesn't really get the juices flowing like a skill guy. But the big nasties need love too, and so a Darisaw at 19, I'd be on board. I'd be on board. So we'll see what happens. If that's who they decide to go with, I wouldn't have a problem. And I wouldn't just stop at the Jets and Tampa. They weren't the only ones that drafted first round tackles. I mean, look at the Browns and Jedrick Wills. I mean, look at how dominant that Browns offensive line was. Don't think for 1 second that Jedrick Wills' addition, I get it. They signed Jack Conklin in free agency too. But don't think for 1 second that Jedrick Wills being drafted and playing left tackle for them didn't help fortify that line immediately, because he did. So, those guys make a difference. Those guys make a massive difference. Got a super chat here from my guy, Trevor Patch. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Trevor Patch, who writes, my man Louie T. I've been Oh, okay. I don't know why I couldn't see the way. I've been aggregating mock data available to be scrapped sites to see what masses think will happen. Round 1, JOK, linebacker. Round 2, Tommy Tremble, tight end. Round 3, Quinn Minards, guard. Round 3, Wade, cornerback. Round 4, Paris Ford, safety. So he says he's been essentially aggregating mock data available from sites to kind of get a consensus to see what people think is going to happen with this team. So his consensus was JOK in round 1, which I think is a realistic possibility. Round 2, Tommy Tremble, tight end from Notre Dame, and I talked about him I think 2 weeks ago on this program, and I talked about him again on the podcast earlier today. I would love him in Washington. Quinn Minards is a guy that was the star of the Senior Bowl, and I'm not just saying that because people fell in love with him. He actually won the Most Valuable Player of the Week award at the Senior Bowl. Okay, this is a guy from a small school. Don't ask me what school he went to because I don't know. But he kicked ass at the Senior Bowl, actually got hurt at the Senior Bowl, and refused to stop practicing and wanted to play in the game. Hurt. So he's a guy that's moving up draft boards. The last time we saw a guy like Quinn Minards ascend was in Tampa Bay, and I think that guy ultimately went in the second round, not the third. They took a guard out of, I cannot think of the name of the college that he went to, but he was just kicking ass at the Senior Bowl and made a name for himself. I'm so stumped. I'm going to look him up now because I'm going to keep thinking about it now that I brought him up. And I can't think of his name. So let's see what his name is. Ali Marpet. That's his damn name. Ali Marpet. Ascended out of nowhere. I'm going to look up his college. It's like Hobart. That's what it is. I'm going to look it up anyway just to make sure I'm right. I'm making up shit. I might be wrong. Hobart and William Smith colleges. Hobart. I remember that. He was kicking ass. Let me see if he went in the second round. He might have went in the third round. Yep, second round, 61st pick. Went in the second round. So I don't think Quentin Minards is going to be around in the third round. Just, again, I'm no dream killer. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. I do not want Wade, the cornerback from Ohio State. He stinks. I don't know if he's going to be willing to make the switch to safety or not. But he stinks. I know that. And I thought he should have went back to school for another year. Let's see. Shaun Wade. Doesn't seem like he's coming back. Doesn't seem like he's looking to go to any other position but cornerback. I don't have a lot of confidence in his ability moving forward. And he could have just had a bad year. Poor technique, things that fundamentally you can clean up. You know, I'd love to know what he ran at his pro day. That would be a fantastic question. Let's see what he did. Shaun Wade ran a 4.5 at the combine, or not combine, at his pro day. So I don't love him as a corner, personally. Sorry. That's just me. And then, did you guys see what this Ford guy for Pitt ran at his pro day? Yikes! I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna read you what this guy ran at his pro day. Matter of fact, I was reading an article the other day that they were talking about players that were going to be, that their stock was down and that they were going to fall down draft boards. And it was like a list. You know how Bleacher Report makes these lists. Players that have like stock down or whatever. And, you know, they do a lot of clickbait and stuff. So you can't always, you know, buy into what they're selling. But, you know, they're thought-provoking articles, nonetheless. So, let me see if I can find the article and read you, what they wrote for, here it is, right here. For the Pitt safety that you put in yours. So, I'll read you their list real quick. They're the number one guy on their list that their stock is falling in falling down draft boards. And again, they don't know this. They're just assuming. Caleb Farley is number one on their list. I told you why I wouldn't be a fan of selecting him in the first round, and they kind of mentioned that in the article, which it makes sense. It doesn't take rocket science to come to that conclusion. But this guy here, Paris Ford, Pitt DB. The case for the Pitt defensive back Paris Ford, who posted pedestrian, if not poor, numbers on March 17th. He ran the 40-yard dash in 4.9 and 4.83 seconds. Yeah, that's slower than Alabama's quarterback, Mac Jones, they put in parentheses. He said this. This is a direct quote from Paris Ford. He says, "I wouldn't say a great day. I'll say a decent day," he said afterward. "Probably wish I could have done a few things better, but the proof is in the pudding now." Look, how do you come back from that? I haven't watched him on tape, so I can't tell you if that's what the tape said to me or if he just had a bad day. Look, a wise man once told me, fast guys run fast, slow guys run slow. Okay? Unless he's telling you that he has an injury. And he didn't say he had an injury. He just said, I didn't say I had a great day. He didn't say, man, He could have easily said, man, I've been dealing with, a sprain in my ankle, but I decided to come out here and gut it out, and I probably shouldn't have, and that's what accounted for the slow time. I'm going to heal up, and I'll come back, and I'm going to run this thing again in a month from now. Okay, cool. But he didn't say that. He just said, hey, it is what it is. He probably knows he's not fast. I haven't watched the tape, but maybe the tape says that he's not a fast player, but I'm not taking a safety that runs a 4.9 and a 4.83 in the fourth round. Sorry. Not doing it. And it ain't happening. So I don't love your last two picks. The first three, I'm on board. Even though I don't think Quinn Minards is going to be around in the third round for that first of those two third rounders. I wouldn't have a problem with it. But again, we need tackle help. We don't necessarily need interior offensive lineman help, and he's a guard. Or as a wise man once said, a guard. So, anyway, I digress. Got a super chat here from my guy, Protect Sports, it looks like. Protect Sports Network. All right, let me first thank my man Protect Sports for the super chat. And I want to congratulate my man Protect Sports Network for hitting the 1K threshold about 3 weeks or so ago. I was so excited when I saw that he hit, and he had a little bit of a celebration stream, and I wish I could have attended that. I was out and about running the streets, but I was so happy. I remember when you first started your channel, and I saw the grind. I didn't know if you were going to be able to keep it up. You had some trials and tribulations, some things that happened throughout the course of time since you started your channel, and you've persevered, you've overcome, and to see where you are now, getting your channel to a status where you're able to now earn off of that channel and be able to see some of the fruits of your labor now. You're putting in all this work. Now you're able to get a little bit of kickback from YouTube with ad revenue and things of that nature. I'm so happy for you, man. So if y'all out there, salute to my guy, Protect Sports Network, who's over there putting in work. And he's not just a Washington fan. He does the entire league. So if you're looking to get your football fix, you can get it there as well. Protect Sports Network, finally crossing that 1K threshold. Big ups to my man for putting in the work and seeing the actual tangible proof. That said, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Protect Sports Network, who writes, can Trayvon, TCU safety, be available at 51? He said, you like Brevin Jordan. Where would you like to take him if so? Mad love, bro. Road to 20K in effect. Yes, sir. I'm actually going to do my homework on Brevin Jordan. I've got passing knowledge of Brevin Jordan. Saw Brevin Jordan in like 4 or 5 games in 2019, excuse me. So I can't tell you, and I wasn't watching him intently. He was making plays, and I was like, man, he looks impressive. He looks talented. So I'm gonna have to go and study him. I know he ran a good time today in the 40. Matter of fact, grab my notebook. He ran, I thought I wrote it down. I didn't write it down. He ran, Brevin Jordan ran I think he measured out at like 6'2". I think he was like 237 or something like that, 240, somewhere around there. He wasn't too big. And I think he ran like a 4.67 or something like that. It was anywhere between like a 4.67 and like a 4.73 or something like that. Anyway, solid times, good times, and I gotta watch him though. I gotta watch him. Can Trayvon Moehrig be available at 51? Sure, he can. Will he be available? I doubt it, because a lot of people are projecting him to be the best safety in the draft. That's not saying much, because I don't think this is a deep safety draft. But what I'm saying to you is, if he's the best of the rest, then he may get plucked a lot sooner, just to make sure if you got a safety need, you get that out of the way right away. Don't wait. So I equate it to last year with the tight ends. It wasn't a great group. The Bears was like, hey, let me get mine out the way right now. I think they plucked the Notre Dame tight end at like 48 last year. Something around there, right around 50. So it just depends on how the safety position is viewed. I think he's more of a, just from what I'm hearing. Again, I haven't done the work myself. I'm hearing that he's more of a early second round dude. Like, he probably won't make it to 51, more likely than not. But again, all this spillage that I'm talking about, we'll see. All it takes is a couple of dudes that you didn't expect to go in the first round to come into the first round. It sucks that there's no Seattle to draft a guy that's probably got a third round grade that they decided we're the smartest guys in the room, so we're going to take him in the first round at 29. They're not in the first round this year. They won't be in the first round for a couple of years after the Jamal Adams trade. So there's no one to save us there and add another good prospect into the second round, because they decided they wanted to take a clown, and well, I shouldn't say a clown in the first round, but a guy that shouldn't have been there in the first round. So I don't think Moehrig will be there at 51. Brevin Jordan, I'll get back to you on that. I'll probably be able to talk to you about Brevin Jordan next week, because wide receivers and tight ends, I'm going to do them next week for sure. Both of those groups. I think Brevin Jordan is probably going to end up being a round 3 pick. Just off the top of the dome, I'm thinking he's going to be a third round pick. I see Tommy Tremble and the Penn State tight end Pat Fryermuth being your 2 second rounders that go. I think Brevin Jordan, if everything checks out, he could be a third round pick. He could easily be a 4th or a 5th round pick. I don't know what the verdict is on him yet, so hard for me to say. But appreciate you nonetheless, Protect Sports Network. Trevor Patch, double up, thank you for doubling up, Trevor Patch. Greatly appreciate you. Trevor Patch writes, the thumbs up button, hit that and share button. Y'all heard the man. And again, if y'all gonna keep throwing me these alleys, well, I ain't turning them down. So hit the subscribe button if you're out there. All right. Hit the notification bell and hit the like button. You heard the man, Trevor Patch. The thumbs up button. Hit that and share button. So share this video as well. And because of you guys' efforts, Alexander the Great, Donald Gray, and now Trevor Patch, the likes are all the way up to 243. So thank you guys so much for that. And generally speaking, I don't have issues with that on these shows with you guys. You guys are great about hitting the like button, but never hurt to have a little bit of help. And you guys have done that tonight. So thank you so much for that, Trevor Patch. Washington football fan WGIL, greatly appreciate you for the super chat, who writes, Lou, news of Snyder as sole owner brings up another topic. Will he bring the team back into DC? Who now in the organization is working on a new site? So news of Snyder's getting essentially the waiver necessary to acquire the other $425 million or whatever it was to or 450, whatever it was that they needed to pass for him to acquire the funds necessary to buy the other 40.5% stake in the team was voted on, and he received the more than 2/3 of the votes he needed to get the waiver. So he's going to essentially get the remaining 40.5% share in the team and become the sole owner of the Washington football team, which was something that we did not think was going to take place, especially with all the fire and turmoil he was under. But obviously the report has not come out yet, but it's a joke. It was a joke from the time they started the investigation, and this proves it. The fact that they're going to go ahead and vote on this and push it through before the report has even been released tells you that there's either no damaging things in there to incriminate Daniel Snyder further than what's already been out there, or it was a farce from the beginning, which is what I tend to believe. But that's no here nor there. You want to know if he's going to bring the team back to D.C.? No way. Who's doing business with this guy? I mean, that's the reason that the team hasn't been able to get back into D.C. and to begin with. Nobody wants to break bread with Daniel Snyder. Nobody wants to give him land. It's never happening. All signs point to us building either a new stadium right where the old stadium is, like right next to it, because he owns all of that land in Landover, Maryland. So where FedEx Field is right now, they're going to build a stadium right next to that, and that's where the site of the new stadium would be. Or they would have to play somewhere else temporarily while they do renovations to FedEx Field, and that's where they're going to be. Ultimately, he wants a new stadium. He's probably going to have to build the shit himself, and it's going to have to be right on his land in Landover, Maryland. That's what it sounds like right now. And if it's not, it'll be in Virginia, but it won't be in D.C., which is where all of us want the team to be, where it belongs. You know, we're not the Virginia football team or whatever the hell they're going to be named in the next year. It might be the football team. Shit, we don't know. But it isn't the Virginia football team. It's the Washington football team. The team belongs in D.C. But I don't see him getting back into D.C. So I don't think anybody in the organization, like, you know, Bruce was tasked with trying to get the deal done to get, you know, break new ground on a site. Nobody's on that staff. Nobody's on that committee. Nobody's on that job, because nobody's trying to break bread with Daniel Snyder. He's a loser. 2, he's a miserable owner. And 3, he's not a great businessman. So Jack Kent Cooke, who was a winner, couldn't even get the stadium built, which is why the stadium is where it is right now. You know? So I don't see Daniel Snyder getting it done. Thank you for the super chat, Washington football fan GIL. All right. Think that might have been the last super chat. Nope, I got one more here. King of the North. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Greatly appreciate you, my man. King of the North writes, what scenario do you see provoking another? They drafted Payne response from you this year. It would have to be a scenario in which and look, the perfect storm is brewing for that to take place. Because if you recall, back in 2018 when we drafted Payne, the perfect storm brewed that year. We had 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10. What did that produce? Spillage. Okay? We so happened to be at 15, I believe, that year. Or 13, excuse me, when we took Payne. We were at 13. And because 4 quarterbacks went in the top 10, we got spillage. We were supposed to be a beneficiary of the spillage. And Tremaine Edmonds and the safety from Florida State that was drafted by the Chargers, Oh shucks, his name was right on the tip of my tongue. But him, and all of these guys were sitting there, and they were fixated on Payne. And we had already heard that they wanted Payne. If he was there, they were going to take him. And I'm like, you can't have your mind made up, okay? Because there are other guys here that weren't supposed to be here. They're now here. Take them. Take one of them. They took none of them. They took Payne. And I lost my shit. Derwin James. Thank you, Andrew Harvey. Knew somebody would write it in there for me. Derwin James was there. Tremaine Edmonds was there. None of those guys were supposed to be there, but they were. And they were dead set. Remember, everybody wanted Vita Vea that draft. Take Vita Vea. With the Buccaneers, they did me the biggest solid ever because I wanted no parts of Vita Vea. And not to say that he hasn't been a really good football player, but that is not what I wanted. I want Vita Vea. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll take him off your hands. You got nothing to worry about. And so I'm like, they've cleared the path. If we were deciding to do something crazy like draft Vita Vea, they've removed him from the scenario. Now the path is clear. Take Tremaine Edmonds. I would have been happy with James, Edmonds. They took Payne. All this spillage, and you took the guy that no matter what, whether there was spillage or not, he was going to be there. You don't settle for the guy that was going to be there prior to the spillage. You take one of the guys that fell to you because of the spillage. We didn't do that. That could happen this year. We're going to get 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks in the top 10. Definitely top 12. 15 at worst. So that tells me we're going to have some, and a linebacker, and a tight end, and a corner more likely than that, and some tackles, and receivers. There will be some spillage. Will it reach 19 is the question. That's a long way for spillage to reach. However, when we're not talking about 3 or 4 quarterbacks, we talk about 5 quarterbacks. We talk about a linebacker. We talk about a tight end. Not one linebacker, multiple linebackers may go. If not, some spillage is going to reach us at linebacker. We talking about receivers. 1 or 2 may go. A third may reach us some spillage. I'm not saying, I'm just saying some spillage may reach us at 19. Darisaw, for me, is cool if there's no spillage. If there's spillage, hey, wait a minute. Let's rethink this now. Was Devontae Smith supposed to be here? Hey, that's some spillage. You see what I'm saying here? Was Patrick Surtain supposed to be here? Hey, that's some spillage. He's not going to be there, though. But I'm just saying. You get where I'm going with this. Darisaw, for me, I think was going to be there regardless. Regardless. Spillage or no spillage. He was going to be there at 19. Can't say that for certain. But I think 2 tackles going before him, with all the quarterbacks that are going, safe to say that a 3rd tackle at 19 isn't far-fetched. Normally, that's the 4th or 5th tackle, though. I mean, look at what we had last year. We had 4 tackles go in the first, what? Where was San Francisco? San Francisco traded back 1 pick with Tampa. Tampa came up 1 pick to ensure that they got Tristan Wirfs. He was the last of the big 4 tackles because you had the Giants take Andrew Thomas. Then you had I think the Browns took Jedrick Wills second. Then the Jets took Mekhi Becton, and then the Bucks took Tristan Wirfs. And that left the Dolphins to, I felt, reach a bit for Andrew, Austin Jackson at 18. I believe they were at 18 last year. 18 or 19, whatever the case may be. So he was the 5th tackle right around where we are. That was a normal draft, though. You had Herbert, Tua, and did anybody else quarterback-wise go in the top 10? I think those were the only two. And Burrow, excuse me. So we had 3 quarterbacks go in the top 10 last year. That's not 5. I think there were only 3 quarterbacks to go in the first round, too. Those 3. And then we didn't have another quarterback until Jalen Hurts. And then we didn't have another quarterback until the 4th round. So that was a normal draft. 4 tackles in the first, 15 picks or so. 3 quarterbacks. That's a normal draft. All right. This is not a normal draft. 5 quarterbacks. A tight end. A linebacker. Or 2. Or 3. Still, don't forget about the receivers. Don't forget about the edge rushers. Don't forget about the corner or corners. Tackles are always in demand. There will be spillage. Will it reach 19 is the question. So we will see. But that's how you get the Daron Payne response is if we settle on a guy and there's spillage, and I think there are far more talented guys, and they just decide, hey, this is the safe pick. You don't do safe when spillage is available. So that's all I'm saying. We'll see. Jay Willard, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Jay Willard writes, I can't remember the woman's name, but she said that if Snyder changed the name, she would take it to the DC government to move the team back to DC. That was just one of the steps. You're talking about Muriel Bowser. She's the mayor of, look, don't get me the line. I know her name is Muriel Bowser, and I want to say she is the mayor, but she could be something else. Let's look her up. She is the mayor of DC, so I was right. I remember listening to her on one of these podcasts that she was on. I think she was on with JP Finley and company on their podcast. And this was a while back. And one of the barriers was, of course, the name then. It's easy to say, hey, if they change the name, we gonna try to work with them. Because they didn't, at that time, they probably didn't think the name was going to get changed. I always, like in situations like that, I always bring up, it's akin to somebody saying, hey, you wanted to go to the mall with us? Dang, man. I would have brought you too. I would have came and picked you up. I didn't know you wanted to go. Yeah, that's easy to say after the fact, Or throwing out a situation where you say, yeah, if you just get that done, yeah. You remember the episode of Martin where Tommy Davidson was like, man, are you coming out to L.A.? He's like, his name was Varnell Hill on Martin. He's like, are you coming out to L.A.? He's like, nah, I ain't coming out. He said, oh, man, damn. You could have been on the show. He knew Martin ass wasn't coming out there. That's why he said that. It's easy to say, yeah, I'll do this. Because you don't think that person's going to do it. But then when Martin showed up in California and he wanted on the Varnell Hill show, he's like, bro, no. It's the same thing with Snyder. They could say, yeah, we'll consider it. But that was just because the name was a barrier and they didn't expect it to change. Because Snyder said, in all caps, it'll never change. Well, it changed. Now he's like, hey, remember what y'all said? They was like, yeah, about that. You still Daniel Snyder. We ain't giving you nothing. So, yeah, no, it ain't happening, man. Don't hold your breath. Trevor Patch, thank you for your 3rd super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man Trevor Patch writes, Happy we got Buffalo week 17. Sorry, lose Buffalo buddies, but I got a list to cross off and a team to keep out of the promised land for another year. So we don't have Buffalo in week 17. We just got them as the 17th game on the schedule. So we don't know where that game is going to be. That game could be in December, cold as hell. That game could be at the beginning of the year in September, which we would prefer. That game could be in the middle of the year, late October, early November. We don't know when the game is played, but, I got a lot of Buffalo Bills guys that I chop it up with, and they already saying, hey, man, sorry about what we got to do to y'all, but it's just business. It ain't personal. I'm like, look, man, I understand. I get it. And most fans aren't looking forward to that game. Neither am I, but that's why they play the game, as a wise man once told me. So we'll see what happens. I'm not counting us out of anything quite yet. But you got a list. I've already crossed Buffalo off my list. I told you that they were on my list for the Sean Taylor fiasco when he passed away. They were the first game after his death. And we decided to go out there with 10 men on the field defensively to honor him. And they decided to run Fred Jackson off left tackle for about a gain of 21. And I said, I'll never forgive you for that. I haven't forgiven them, but, the ass whooping that we put on them back in 2015, that should suffice. I crossed them off the list back in 15 when we smoked their ass en route to the postseason that year. Same with the Saints. I didn't forgive them until we beat the brakes off of them like 40-14 in 2015 en route to making the postseason, because we owed them that year because of what they did to us in 2011. I so badly wanted to beat them. Not 2011. I think it was like 09. The year they won the Super Bowl. They started out the season 14-0, I believe. And we were one of those 14 wins. We had their asses on the ropes at FedEx Field. Should have beat them. Sean Sweezum, bitch ass, missed a 23-yard field goal. Man, I could have punched him in his face. That was the Devin Thomas game. That's all I have to say to y'all. Y'all remember the game. It was the Devin Thomas game. He had 8 catches for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. They're like, here he comes, Devin effing Thomas. Never saw that guy again, man. Never saw that guy again. I was so excited for Devin Thomas that game, too. Golly. Oh, King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for doubling up. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Devin. Oh, Devin Thomas. Thank you for doubling up, King of the North. Who writes, I didn't know you were on tonight, and my homeboy texted me saying you were live talking about Aaron Rodgers coming here next year. Lion season, Lou. Shake your head. Okay, see, that's the shit I'm talking about. Your homeboy did not misinform you. He might have left out some details, okay? Somebody asked, see, this is what I'm saying. What did I say? What did I say? I said, first of all, I just want y'all to know, I'm not saying Aaron Rodgers is coming here, and I'm not saying if Aaron Rodgers does come here, we're winning the Super Bowl. These things did not come out of my mouth. So, what I said, and again, your homeboy was not wrong, all right? I said that, first of all, somebody asked me the prospects of Aaron Rodgers coming here in 2022. So I looked up his information. The Packers can't get out of his contract after 2022, and they're probably going to trade him after this season. He doesn't want to renegotiate. They want to see what Jordan Love has. It sounds like this will be the last year of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So I said, that person asked, what are the chances that he ends up here? They're slim. I think I said a whole bunch of stuff, and I ended with, I give it a 2% chance. It's not impossible, but highly unlikely. Okay? I said what we would have to do is we would have to be in a position where Aaron Rodgers feels like I'm the missing piece to put him over the top. Meaning we can't take a step backwards. We have to take a step forward this year. That's essentially what I said. You want to get all of what I said, you got to go back, watch the video on playback. But it's lion season, and I made sure that at the top of this show, I reiterated that several times. And I even told you guys, believe half of what you see, none of what you hear, even if it's spat by me, your man, Louie T. So it is lion season, but I didn't say anything crazy out of my mouth. I swear. I swear. Thank you for the super chat, kicking it off, man. I can always trust you to keep me in line. You and my man Kev. And Derek B. Landry Balbin. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Landry Balbin writes, hey, Louie, we need tight end 2 at 19. If we can't get Kyle Pitts, I won't mind Jeremy Ruckert. I'm not the biggest Jeremy Ruckert fan. He's solid. I wanted the other Ohio State tight end, but he's not coming out. He went back to school. That's the guy that I was drooling over. I'm going to look his name up. Ohio State tight ends. I wanted... Let's see if I can find him. Ruckert actually came out. I actually wanted the other tight end, and I was talking about him. He had a touchdown in the playoff game. He had a hell of a playoff game, as a matter of fact. Everybody did against Clemson. Let me see if I can find him. I'm about to track him down right now. Let's see. I wanted... Rucker is coming out. Luke Farrell. Ruckert is going back to school. Farrell is the one that's coming out. I wanted Ruckert. So he's going back to school. Jeremy Ruckert is going back to school. So the guy you asked for is going back to school. He's not coming out. I was disappointed because I thought he was going to come out, and he didn't. He went back to school, and he had his right to do that. He wants to have a big season, elevate his draft stock, and I think he's got the talent to do it. He's big. He's athletic. He showed us that. He's got great hands. He showed us that last year as well. I thought he could have been like the second tight end off the board had he come out after Kyle Pitts. But he wasn't satisfied with that. And maybe he enjoyed school and, he wants to experience the college life some more and, all of that good jazz. I can't say why he went back to school, but in a weak tight end class, he would have shot straight to the top, But obviously behind Pitts. He would have shot straight to the top of the list. But he decided to go back to school. So Jeremy Ruckert is not available. Lorenzo Simpson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man Zoe writes, putting a gun to your head. Uh-oh. Of the second tier quarterback prospects, who would you want Washington to take and why? In that group, I would consider Kyle Trask. I would consider Kellen Mond. I would consider Davis Mills. I, myself, would consider Sam Ehlinger in that group. And I don't really consider Jamie Newman in that group, but I think most people would put him in that second group, that second tier. I don't view him as a second tier quarterback, however, but that's nor here nor there. For the intents and purposes of this discussion, let's just throw him in. He's not my choice, so it doesn't matter. I really like Kyle Trask a lot. However, the lack of mobility is a problem for me. You know how I am about my quarterbacks and their mobility. So he would be a problem for me, would Kyle Trask, because he's just not an athlete. He's not afraid to run. He's just not very good at it. Unlike Mac Jones, who actually has a little bit more athleticism than I think we give him credit for, but he doesn't want to run. So I think as a passer, Kyle Trask would be the most natural quarterback of that group, ready to go. I'm not saying that he's ready to go right out of the packaging or anything like that, but I think he would be the most ideal guy. But if you, like you said, you put a gun to my head, he made me choose, I would probably side with either Davis Mills or Sam Ehlinger. Kellen Mond is not that far behind those two, however. I'm not a Kellen Mond fan, though. But he has, the more I've watched, the more he has grown on me, but not enough to make me take him over Davis Mills, the upside of a Davis Mills or a Sam Ehlinger. And I know a lot of people don't love Sam Ehlinger. A lot of people don't. I like Sam probably more than most. Are there flaws to his game? Sure. That's why he's in the second tier. Every single one of those guys has some glaring major flaw in their game. But I think I would go 1 Davis Mills, 2 Sam Ehlinger, 3 Kellen Mond. That's the order. That's how I would pick them. If you want the wild card, it would be Kyle Trask. Where he would fit in that group, probably right before Kellen Mond, I guess. Right after Davis Mills and Sam Ehlinger. But it's only because of his lack of mobility. In today's NFL, and I know everybody wants to point to Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers. That's a thing of the past. Look, you're going to have your outliers from, here and there. You're going to have 1 or 2 guys that are true pocket passers, not looking to move around and run all that much and extend. You're going to have some of those guys in the league. I don't think they'll ever go away, but much like the fullback position, they're becoming dinosaurs and fossils. And, you may have one, but most of the league doesn't. That's how that's going to be at the quarterback position with pocket passers. You may have a guy that can do it and do it well, and your team may be set up for that guy to do it and do it well, but most teams need a mobile quarterback. That's where the NFL is heading. A guy that can create all schedule, a guy that on 3rd and 7 can run for 8 or 9. I want that guy, personally. So that's how I would look at it. Thank you for the super chat, Lorenzo Simpson. DMV Pride 10. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DMV Pride 10 writes, do you think Koromoa fits our defense considering his size? Too bad Landon Collins doesn't move the linebacker. They are basically the same size, but they aren't the same player, though. Koromoa fits any defense because every defense needs a guy that can drop over the slot. Every defense needs a guy that can run with tight ends and run with slot receivers. He can do that. So even if, he doesn't necessarily fit in your base, he's going to fit in your nickel. He's going to fit in sub packages, every single one of them. So there will be a place on the field for JOK at all times. Now, again, he may not necessarily fit what you're looking for in your base package, whether it's a 3-4, it's a 4-3. Doesn't matter. You may not love him in the run game, per se, but as soon as you go to sub, he's your guy, And the beauty is the team that you're playing against could come out in a sub, in a base package, something that you would put a base against. So more likely than not, they could come out in either 12 personnel or 21 personnel. Either way, you're coming out in base package when you see that. Okay, as a defense, you see 21 or 12 personnel, you're coming out in base package. whether that's an even or odd front, it doesn't matter. You see that personnel on the field. But what if they decide, all right, we got that package, we got that personnel on the field, but we're going to go empty set. Uh-oh, shit. That's what we did. We did that to Dallas a couple of times where we put 21 personnel on the field, 12 personnel, only to get Dallas in a matchup one-on-one that we liked with our running back, J.D. McKissick. Just so we could get their linebacker one-on-one matched up with J.D. McKissick. Or just so we could get our receiver one-on-one with their linebacker. I think we put Terry in the slot, and we got Terry a one-on-one matchup with, I think it was either Jalen Smith or Leighton Vander Esch. One of those guys. We got some easy money. Because we came out and a personnel that said, hey, your base should be on the field, and then we went empty. Well, now your linebacker has to cover somebody. Now you're in trouble. Well, if he's on the field, if they decide to do that and they try to pull some trickery on you, doesn't matter. You're good. You can cover that guy. So that's what you're looking, because we feel good about Cole Holcomb running with somebody's tight end. If you come out in 12 personnel or 21 personnel, you're asking Cole Holcomb to run with either a tight end or a linebacker. I'm cool with that. You know, I remember the Cardinals got us like that. They came out in base personnel, and then they got Larry Fitzgerald one-on-one essentially against John Bostic. Well, you know who's winning that matchup? And he did. And that was on a third down, and I think it was on a third down and 5. They had him on the field, and they spread us out. Emptied the set, Larry Fitzgerald all the way in the slot, and John Bostic had to cover him. Easy money. It's like stealing. So when you go to those types of situations, that's the guy you want on the field. So if, let's for instance say you draft him, you don't love him on the field, you know, in your 4-3, in your base 4-3 defense, which they would love him in that situation as a weak side linebacker. But let's just say you don't love him. You love him when you go to your nickel and you take a linebacker off the field and exchange that out for a defensive back. Now you would, one of those linebackers you're taking off the field, it wouldn't be him. You'd love him to be on the field at that point. If you're taking off another linebacker and you go to dime, essentially taking another linebacker off the field, and now it's one linebacker, 4 defensive linemen, and 6 defensive backs, guess what? He's that one linebacker that you're going to keep on the field. So there are so many ways to utilize him. Yes, he fits in this defense. He fits in any defense. He's a Swiss Army knife, and Landon Collins, he and Landon Collins are not the same player. You're right. They're basically the same size. They're not the same player, though. So Landon Collins isn't the kind of athlete that you want running with guys on a consistent basis, which JOK has shown the ability to be able to do that at a very high rate. So there is that as well. Thank you for the super chat, DMV Pride 10. Richard R. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Richard R. writes, don't forget love to the Packers in the first round. That was last year, wasn't it? Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. 4 quarterbacks went in the first round last year. You're right. Jordan Love went to the Packers. A big hoopla was made of that because everybody thought the Packers were going to try to improve upon the roster and help Aaron Rodgers potentially get over the top. And instead not only did they take a receiver, they traded up not only did they take a quarterback, they traded up to take Jordan Love, quarterback, which signified the end is near for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. So you're right, there were 4 quarterbacks taken in the first round, but that didn't attribute to Spillage, which is the point I was trying to make. But you're right, I totally forgot about Jordan Love as the 4th quarterback taken in last year's draft, and the 5th quarterback was Jalen Hurts, not the 4th. So 4 quarterbacks went. I think Love didn't go till like 23 or 24 though, if I'm not mistaken. But you are correct. Thank you for that correction, Richard Greatly appreciate you. Indeed. 4 quarterbacks went in the first round. D. Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. D. Davis writes, Tommy Tremble at 51. I would love it if he makes it to 51. I'm going to keep it a buck and some change with you. I don't think he does. Because of the landscape of the tight end position and his versatility and how few options there may be at the tight end position. And I don't want to discount the tight end position, but I don't think this is a strong tight end draft. I'll be able to tell you more about it next week. I strongly believe that someone's going to snatch him up before 51. That's just my personal belief, but I could be wrong about that. But as I always tell you guys, all it takes is one. So I would love him at 51. I would love Tommy Tremble to make it to 51. And he could. He could. Don't get it twisted. He could make it to 51. It's not a lock or a foregone conclusion that he's going to be gone. I just got a hunch that somebody's going to take him. I hope I'm wrong. Hope he's there for the taking at 51. I'd love to at least have a chance to select him at 51. Doesn't mean that that's what they're going to do, but I'd love for him to be on the board. At least give us the opportunity to say, nah, he was there, but we decided to go in a different direction. And if they do that, that again would tell us a lot about how they feel about the tight end position. I feel like they should be attacking the tight end position with vigor in day 2. They got 3 selections on the second day of the draft. They need to be aggressive with one of those 3 picks and get a tight end. I really feel that way. Till they prove to me otherwise, tight end needs to be high on the list of priorities as we get past day number 1. Richard R., thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, Richard R. Greatly appreciate you. Richard R. writes, can Ron force Collins to play linebacker? If Collins refuses to play that position, do we still have to pay him, almost like a sit-out situation? No, they can't force him to do anything. His contract is that of a safety. He signed a contract to be the safety of the Washington football team. Similar to Albert Haynesworth when he came here and Washington signed him as a defensive tackle, he didn't want to play nose. And he didn't sign a contract that stated he had to play nose. So he could essentially do what he wanted to do. It's not insubordination if a player doesn't want to switch positions. Haynesworth's situation was a little bit different because it wasn't necessarily about him switching positions. It was about switching schemes. And he wasn't interested in switching schemes, you know, from a base 4-3 to a 3-4 defense where he would have to play the nose. He wasn't interested in doing that when Shanahan came on board, which Shanahan wanted to implement a 3-4 defense when he came on board as the head coach. So, you know, with Collins, he was brought here to be a safety. He feels like he's a safety. He doesn't want to switch positions. That's his prerogative. They can't force him to do. And when you ask a guy to switch positions, that guy has to buy in. Like, you're not going to maximize the talent that player has if he's doing it begrudgingly. You need to be able to get him to buy in. And if he's not willing to do it, then you're wasting your time. So, it's almost like a player not wanting to play for you, like Deshaun Watson, for instance, in Houston. It sucks when a guy doesn't want to be there because you want a guy that wants to be there. I still wouldn't trade him because you're not going to get equal value for him. But at some point, he doesn't want to be there. You can't force him to play, you know? And even if he comes back and plays, he's going to be miserable. And it's not like he's going to go out there and stink it up on purpose because he's still going to play for his teammates. And he's got a legacy to uphold if he plays. But, he doesn't want to be there. So, I don't see them moving Landon Collins at all. I don't see it happening. I don't see him um, transitioning to linebacker. I don't see them trying to force him to play that spot. If they want him to play there and he doesn't want to play, it'll probably be his last year in Washington. If they say, hey, we really love Cameron Curl and we want him to be our safety, we still want you on the field, but we want you on the field in a linebacker capacity. And he says, nah, I'm good. Then they say, okay, cool. They could either just cut him on the spot and whatever money that they have to eat, they eat it just to get him off the roster because they don't want to deal with him. Or they could just not play him, eat the money this year, hold on to him just in case Cameron Curl gets hurt or something happens and he's got to play. You need him to be around. But at the end of the season, you cut him. You get rid of him. You move on from him. So I don't think they would do anything, even though they might want him to move. There are ways that you can get all three safeties on the field. Cameron Curl played the big nickel last year. He could do it again this year. Remember when Landon Collins was healthy, Cameron Curl was still on the field a ton. You don't have to move Landon Collins to get Cameron Curl on the field. Dora Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Dora Gunner, greatly appreciate you. Dora Gunner writes, finally able to catch a stream live. Thanks for the great content. Been rocking my new LTN shirt over here in Iraq. Draft offensive line, linebacker, corner, or wide receiver at 19, in my opinion. Thank you for the support, Dora Gunner. Loved the picture of you getting your stuff. That is so awesome. And you rocking it. It was funny. We joked about you having a package. Like, I'm pretty sure none of your packages have traveled this far. Like, you're damn right. I don't think none of them have traveled that far. I thought that was so awesome. If you haven't grabbed you some LTN merch, what are you guys waiting on? Hit the site and check it out. All the links you need are below in the description of this and every single video that I do. But Dora Gunner has always represented, always holds me down. I really appreciate Dora Gunner. And again, as we've said many a times on this show and we'll continue to echo, we thank you for all that you do for us here, protecting our freedoms over in Iraq. We can't thank you guys enough for your services. Dora Gunner says, draft an O-lineman, linebacker, cornerback, or wide receiver at 19, in his opinion. Yeah, I think it's those four positions. You could throw quarterback in there if, they so choose to move up or one falls in their lap. But, yeah, I would think it would be narrowed down to pretty much those four positions, I would think. I think most people would agree with that. It's one of those four positions. O-line, linebacker, corner. And honestly, it's probably in that order. Maybe O-line and linebacker are switched. But it's probably in that order, seeing what they've done in free agency with the wide receiver and cornerback position. It's pretty safe to say that linebacker and O-linemen are probably at the top of their list. Probably at the top of their list. Depending, again, Spillage could change things. But I think you're right. I think you are right, Dora Gunner. So that's the last super chat. I want to say this before we get out of here. I was listening to the press conferences for all of the players we signed. Fitz did one. Curtis Samuel, never, ever trust a man with two first names. He did one. Adam Humphries did one. Those were your major signings. All of those guys did pressers. So I'm listening to Curtis Samuel with his Zoom call with the media. And he said, and this was one of the issues I had with him. And I told you, I don't care how he gets his yardage. He just get it. Care how they amass 1,137 yards of total offense for Curtis Samuel. Just amass it like the Panthers did last year. He said, look, I'm a natural running back. I've been a running back all my life. Like, I didn't play wide receiver. I just started playing wide receiver. Still learning how to play receiver position. That was my point. He's like, running back, I don't have to worry about, run tracks. You don't have to show me, where to get in. Just tell me which way to run is, and I know how to get into my fits, and I know how to run the track, and I know when to cut it back. I've been a running back my whole life. He's still learning at the wide receiver position. He's not a natural wide receiver. He'll tell you that. I've been saying that. I wanted a traditional number 2. And I told you, he's here. I'm embracing him. And I know the guy's talented. So I just want to make sure that they utilize. And he said, the biggest thing is you just got to get me the football in space. I'm a playmaker. They understood that in Carolina last year because the question was posed to him, well, you played, you got less touches this past year, but you had more yards and you were utilized better. You know, what happened essentially? And they pretty much answered their own question. I love when reporters ask a question and they already answered it. But he was like, yeah, I mean, Joe Brady had a great plan. They moved me around. They utilized me. And again, Christian McCaffrey being injured probably had a large say in him getting the amount of carries that somebody brought up a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Like, yo, only reason he got all them carries was because Christian McCaffrey was hurt. Touche. But he got him. And that's the best way to use him because the guy's a natural running back. He was at Ohio State too. I told you, he was one of those guys that was recruited as an athlete. They put him all over the place at Ohio State, but he was mostly in the backfield. So this is a transition for him. If they use him correctly, I got no problems with this. If they don't, if they brought him here, and that's why I think they signed Adam Humphries, because I think they want to be able to move Curtis Samuel around and not have to worry about taking a guy away from the slot. You know, if Terry's out there, Samuel's in the backfield, we could see a lot of 2-back sets and Samuel be one of the 2 backs. I want to see that. I want to see a formation where there's no back in the field and we come out empty set and then they motion Curtis Samuel to the backfield and then they hand it off to him. Well, guess what? You just got the defense to come out in some kind of dime where there's only one linebacker on the field because they see 5 wide receivers or 4 wide receivers in the tight end. There's no running back on the field. So they empty out their set and they go to their dime defense with 6 defensive backs, 4 defensive linemen, and 1 linebacker because they are expecting pass here. You motion him into the backfield, and now you got a light box and you run it. Like, that's the kind of shit I want to see. Not that vanilla bullshit that we do, you know, 18 fake jet sweeps and no handoffs. No, actually give him the football and be creative with it. That's what the best, most innovative minds do. Not just, hey, we're going to bring Curtis out and we're going to line him up in the backfield and we're going to hand it to him. That's cool. They did that in Carolina too. But get creative. Pre-snap shifts and formational changes. Get the defense to declare one way, and now, oh shit, they got us. They got the personnel they wanted on the field. Damn it. We just popped a 22-yard run because we caught them with 6 defensive backs on the field. That's the kind of shit I want to see. Anyway, I cannot wait to see what they do. Last thing I want to bring up before we get out of here. Caleb Farley. Don't dismiss him at 19. I don't know how Washington feels about him. I don't know how the other teams drafting before Washington feel about him. Before the news of the back surgery, and they termed it minor, it was outpatient surgery. It was minimally invasive and yada, yada, yada. Again, you're talking about a discectomy to relieve pressure on a nerve in your back, and you didn't play football last year. Where's the psychological sense in that, player? You need to wash your face and get your mind right. Something's off there. You're doing that after a full year of no contact. And I don't know if you did something in training and you tweaked it. That's very plausible. Doesn't matter. If you're tweaking it in training, and you got to have surgery to fix it, we got a problem on our hands. That said, I said all of that, and you're saying, oh, I don't want him. He could be in play at 19. I'm just saying he could be in play at 19 because Ron and company could say, look, man, this is a top 7 talent that we're getting at 19. Our team doctors say that this guy's fine. I don't know if you guys, this is what makes me think. We're taking, and this doesn't have anything to do with anything. But I saw Martin Mayhew at the Virginia Tech Pro Day, and he was smiling too hard, and he just looked too happy. And they talked to Christian Darrisaw, and he said, I've spoken to Washington on several occasions. And Mayhew talked to him again at his pro day. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I think everyone's been mocking him to us. There's a reason why. We'll see. I'm just going to tell you. One of those Virginia Tech guys at 19 wouldn't shock me. And that includes Caleb Farley, who even if he's not what you desire because of the injury history and the surgery and this, that, and the third, if he's cleared medically, he is a top 7 talent in this draft that you're getting at 19. Spillage, folks. That is Spillage. I wouldn't advocate for it. I don't have a copy of the medicals. I'm not talking to my team physicians and being able to discuss, hey, how serious is the pictures that you're looking at of this guy's back and looking at his medical files and what you've seen. Is this a guy that we can get 17 games out of consistently over the life of a 5-year contract? Is this something that you feel like we could do? And if the team physician says, yeah, this guy's going to be fine. This guy's going to be fine. At 19, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for tripling up. As always, King of the North writes, ever wonder why D defensive coordinator hasn't figured out a good zone D that allows the DBs to follow a receiver in motion, doesn't tip off the quarterback? There are teams that are able to do that. What happens when you do that, however, is it's complicated for everybody else to then adjust when you do it that way. Because New England, they do it all the time. And it's not a zone defense. It's multiple defenses in one. So that guy may be playing man-to-man coverage. Like he'll take his best corner and put him on a specific receiver or tight end and say, I don't care where he goes, you got him man-to-man. Everybody else is playing zone. And so if you send that guy in motion, guess what? That guy's going to run with him and you think, oh, it's man-to-man. Well, everybody else is playing cover 3, some form of cover 3. And so you could confuse a quarterback that way. But just know if you take a guy and you're playing a specific defense, a zone defense, and you take the corner, you said DB, so let's just take the corner, for instance, in that cover 3 that you're playing. You take the boundary corner, they send that guy in motion to the other side of the field. Well, you just took the guy that had the deepest third out of the mix on that side. So now somebody else is responsible for that deep third. So now everybody else has to bump and shift coverage. It becomes difficult for everyone to do that job. You're putting guys out of position. Everything's out of whack now. Because remember, in a cover 3, a true cover 3, that corner has the deepest third. Okay, deeper than the deepest, wider than the widest. So he is covering a lot of real estate on that third of the football field. If you just bump that coverage, and let's say there were only 2 corners on the field, okay? Now you're either going to have to force a safety to come down, that safety that's supposed to be kind of spying in the middle of the field and maybe coming down into that shallow hook zone, into that flat area. He's now going to have to maybe come down and play that deep third. But now the middle of the football field is a little bit more wide open where he might have been patrolling. Everything's out of whack now when you move guys around. There are ways to do it. Teams do it all the time. It's just not easy. It's not easy to do that. So, anyway. There are ways to do it, though. But it's hard. And everybody has to be dialed in. Everybody has to understand that there have to be contingency plans in place. If this guy goes in motion, this is what we do now. Okay? This is how we handle this. So, anyway. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, on this outstanding Wednesday evening. We actually finished the show before the tournament now. Hey, how about that? Only reason we did is because I didn't have any prospects to show you tonight, or else we'd be here till 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning like always. But in any event, I'm going to get out of here. I thank you guys for joining me one final time. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And hit the like button on your way out. Over 320 of you out there. We got 282 likes. Why not get it up to 300 if we can? So I really do appreciate you guys. Remember, I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. If anything happens, I will be all over it. But if not, I will see you guys on Friday for the Louie T Network podcast. If not, then I'll see you guys next week for the next installment of Washington Football Report Live. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys take care. God bless. And good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.